Hey guys, Tanner here on Monday morning, breaking in before your standard episode because we wanted to tell you that there was some recent news out of the courts that changes our conversation a little bit. On Monday morning, the courts ordered that the lottery that was previously scheduled for Tuesday will not be happening. Instead, the OCM is required to submit additional paperwork to the Court of Appeals to talk about some of the issues that were had during the application process and how they plan to move forward. I think our standard episode that we recorded on Friday, the conversations that we had with our guests and that we had in the studio are still true and perhaps ring even more true now with the decision out of the court. Regardless, we wanted to just break in and let you guys know ahead of time that that lottery that we're talking about a lot during the episode will not be moving forward. Instead, we'll be hearing more out of the Court of Appeals, likely sometime next week, but we don't exactly know yet. Make sure to follow throughout the rest of the week. We're going to be dropping episodes as we head into the holiday and afterwards of our and some of our friends' reactions to this, and we'll keep you updated as more news continues to come. But that's all we know for today. All right, here's the regular episode.
Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, a trusted partner for small businesses in Minnesota's legal cannabis industry. Whether you've already applied for a license or just getting started, attorney Jen Riza and her team can help you build a compliant business, identify and navigate risks, put together an application, and keep you informed about the ever-changing Minnesota cannabis landscape. Are you ready to add North Star to your team? Visit northstarlaw.com/cannabis and let North Star Law Group guide you through confidently opening your doors. Again, that's northstarlaw.com/cannabis. Are you a social equity applicant trying to save money on LED grow lights? Then here's some good news for you. You could get up to 75% off your lighting project, covered entirely by rebates, when you team up with a local nonprofit, Center for Energy and Environment. Since 2000, CEE has provided free energy consulting to Xcel Energy customers throughout Minnesota. Their team of lighting experts will help you get the highest rebates possible and take care of the paperwork so you don't have to. Starting a grow operation can be overwhelming, so take advantage of this free support from CEE. Go to mncee.org/grow-LED to sign up for your free consultation and find out how much you can save with lighting rebates. Again, that's mncee.org/grow-LED. Go get signed up today. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by Steve and Jordan. Hey, guys.
Hey, Tanner. How you doing?
I'm here.
Right. It's been a week. Jordan, how are you doing?
Excellent. Excited to get into the nonsense that is happening.
I love Jordan's perspective here.
I know nothing about any, you guys are my news source for a lot of this stuff. I'm the camera guy. I'm the lights guy. And so I like to lead into the everyman bit. Oh, wait, what's that mean, Tanner? Oh, Steve, can you clarify? I hope that I can be a good in-studio representation of the listening audience if they are maybe closer to me in understanding of current
My real life version of that at home is my wife, who I make listen to me talk about all this stuff. And she described it this week as, it feels like the Real Housewives are running the OCM. And yeah, that feels spot on.
I think we've got a show title today, Real Housewives of OCM.
There we go. Well, so we've got a bunch of news that we're going to talk about today. We've got some updates in Minneapolis and Duluth that we're going to be digging into. We've got some updates out of Vireo, one of the medical producers here in the state, and some potential strike coming up.
Yeah, that one's interesting. I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, we've got some changing habits of U of M students, no longer consuming as much alcohol, now consuming a bit more cannabis. And then we've also got a ton of breaking news that we're gonna jump into that's come out in just the last few hours. A little bit later, we've got an interview with Kehren of North Star Law Group. Steve, that was a really great conversation. I'm excited for people to hear a little bit more about that one.
Super dope conversation with Sean Paul. And it was fun just to connect right from the beginning there. I met Sean back in April when he was brand new to North Star Law Group. Yeah. And I think that was the first event was Canna Connect 4. And the North Star Law Group team was there. Great event, fun time. And I can tell Sean's energy from the moment I met him was bright. Mm-hmm. And I learned so much about him on the episode today.
Yeah, it was a good conversation. So definitely stick around for that one. We'll be sampling some products today. We'll have some Tanner's Chirp tasting, and then, of course, the high note at the end.
It's a jam-packed episode. We got a little bit of housekeeping to get through first.
Exactly. So let's jump into that. People who subscribe to our YouTube page, subscribe to our podcast. If you don't yet, go do that right now. You probably got notified that we had 2 episodes or videos, audio drop between the last episode that we had and this recording.
So we've had 3 episodes in the last week.
Exactly. A lot of content. We encourage people to listen to all of it and stay up to date. But definitely be sure to listen back to that emergency episode that we did on Tuesday, right when the notifications were sent out about social equity applicants, 2/3 of them being removed from that lottery.
We had Marcus Harkis and John Barty join us.
Yep. And you.
Oh, yeah. But I really enjoyed that dynamic. And putting us on Zoom was a good call.
Yeah, it was the first episode of Northern Lights I got to do in my living room. So that was a cool one. We also got another episode people should go check out. It was actually a recording from the Office of Cannabis Management. They gave some updates on that grant program, the Can Grow and the Can Renew programs, both managed by the OCM. People should go listen to that to hear if maybe their business, their organization qualifies to get some of that money or what that money can be used for here in the state.
But Tanner, I got some other news.
Yeah? What up?
You see these devices?
So I was wondering why you're putting those on the table today. Yeah, I know the Storks and Bickle Mighty, the Crafty, and the
now
Venti.
We got the Venti.
Yeah, I actually don't know that one.
I've only seen this product. I haven't quite used it yet. I'd love to do it on the show at some point. Maybe we could, test out some flower with it. If you're a brand that's got flower, we'd love to see it. Minnesota flower, Minnesota grown. But I'm sort of burying the lead. I've been wanting to give these devices away for a while, like a couple months. And I've been trying to figure out what the best way we could do maybe a raffle.
Okay.
And I think we finally came to an agreement that the Minnesota Cannabis College is hosting a party on December 20th. It's really a Northern Lights holiday party, right?
For sure.
But we're using the Minnesota Cannabis College as a nonprofit to raise money and give away these devices to the raffle ticket winners. So no piñata this year, but we are giving away 3 Stores and Pickle devices. They're worth combined value of over $1,000, and we're selling raffle tickets at the Dabbler Depot. That's the Dabbler Depot Seed and Sesh, 951 Payne Avenue, and the Dabbler Depot Minneapolis location in South Minneapolis. We'll have raffle tickets available starting today. We're making it happen. We're getting it out there. And we want you to support the Dabbler Depot and also support the Minnesota Cannabis College through a great partner like Stores and Bickle. And it's all coming together through Clean Green Media.
Yeah, very cool, man. I saw those sitting on the table and was like, oh, we get to open some new devices today, maybe try them out. But I guess we'll let someone else give them a try and take them home. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I have the Mighty Plus. I've been loving using that one. I've used other vapes in the past before and was blown away by how much vapor that produces, just how high quality it feels.
Right.
I'm a fan. So say those details again for people who maybe didn't listen, maybe you missed it the first time. We're throwing a Northern Lights holiday party.
That's right. 24 days of dabbling, brought to you by the Minnesota Cannabis College and Dabbler Depot. It's December 20th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Come here. We won't be recording. It'll be a party atmosphere at the Dabbler Depot Seed and Sesh, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., December 20th, right before the holidays. It's going to be awesome. We've seen events kind of popping up in the first half of December. This is more of a holiday party. We want people to dress up, be festive, bring cookies, make your own cookies, bring them to the Dabbler Depot. Let's have a seed and a sesh.
All right. I like that. That sounds fun. So December 20th, people can check that out. They can go get their raffle tickets at the Seed and Sesh Payne Avenue or at the 28th location of the Dabbler Depot.
Yeah, we'll get some flyers together. We'll get some posters up. It's going to be a great time.
Very cool. Well, looking forward to seeing all of you, everyone watching and listening right now, at that party. That'll be a fun time.
We'll see you on December 20th.
All right. Well, so with that being said, with people now notified about our emergency episodes, that recording, the holiday party, looking forward to that one. Should we jump into the news?
Let's jump right in.
Yeah, we should tell people we got our show notes. Normally they're just like a few pages long. This was, we're coming up to about 10 pages of information. So strap in for an information-packed episode, but we're going to make it fun. Ever felt like running a cannabis business means running in circles just to get basic banking? Union Bank and Trust gets it. They've been helping cannabis businesses for over 10 years, solving problems like securing accounts, managing cash flow, and navigating regulations. No more jumping through hoops, no more runarounds. Just straightforward banking solutions built on trust, integrity, and performance. That's unionbankandtrust.com. And we're going to start by sharing a little bit about an update on the lottery and the social equity applicants. We're not going to cover the whole detail about what happened. Go back and listen to that emergency episode. It's a good one. You should check it out.
Absolutely.
But we wanted to share a statement from our friend Jen at North Star Law Group that she put out in her newsletter. We'll drop a link to that newsletter so people can subscribe. But I think it really does a great job of summarizing the current state of where we're all at.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories to be told as
Yeah.
it relates to the social equity applicants.
Exactly. So I'm going to be reading verbatim. It says, OCM told MinPost that a lot of the rejected applicants are zone flooders or predatory applicants or who do not meet the letter of the law around ownership requirements and expectations. However, it was quickly obvious that while some denials probably fit that category, and good on OCM for weeding them out, there were significant numbers of people who were denied who did not fit that description. North Star has since collected the stories of 36 social equity applicants who received terse, frustrating denials, and we know that there are more. Some made small errors in their application, like inadvertently leaving one question blank or submitting an empty cap table. Others, however, did nothing wrong. For example, they failed to supply a trade name registration because they were applying as a sole proprietor. Or in one case, OCM provided the link to apply at what was actually OCM's test site, and denied the application received there with no contact since August 12th. And that's sort of where we're at. You know, I think it's very clear for people that have been watching this that there might have been some fumbles along the way as this entire process was rolled out.
At least two, with that test site. That was the latest story to drop. I think that came out as we're recording like yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Hours,
so now continuing on with that story, because it's been an evolving thing over the past 24 hours, and you guys, in fact, on Tuesday, listening to this or later in the week, might know more than we do right now, but let's talk about what's coming up.
What's coming up on Tuesday?
Yeah, so that
the day we're here. It's Tuesday.
Yeah, so you're listening right now. It's Tuesday. That social equity lottery is happening today at 11 a.m. OCM came out and surprised everyone saying, nope, it's not that first week of December, like I think many imagined, but instead they've moved it forward. Everyone has been notified. We can now review the first batch of 282 social equity applicants.
I wish there was
11
a
a.m.
roster. I wish this was video games now. We could see them in each of their categories.
Yeah.
It would create like a betting market.
It honestly would. And what's very interesting to me is there was some discussion about how is OCM going to get this information out to people. I said on the podcast, I think that they're just going to post it online. It's going to be like a website upload.
Right.
We now know it's going to be live streamed on OCM's YouTube page.
But I had a question about that.
Yeah.
What details are they going to share on that live stream? They're not sharing the names of the license people, as I understood it.
So that's what we're still trying to figure out. I think they will be saying the licenses that were awarded, perhaps just by application number. Mezzo 243 wins it.
Yeah. That would make sense.
But yeah, it will be very interesting to see. So it says some limited data about the successful applicants, such as their locations, might be made available.
Huh.
So more to come.
Wow. You must be so excited.
I'm very, very excited. There has been months of effort, years of planning built up to the idea of having a social equity round of the lottery. And we're now, it's Friday right now as we're recording. We're less than, 4 days out from that first round of people knowing.
I really am getting NCAA basketball tournament vibes. It's like Tuesday, Tuesday. They're moving fast. We're
Yep.
gonna have champions crowned.
Oh, very, very, very true. Unless, of course, we have some things that stop that. Continuing to evolve this story, after OCM had sent emails out to people telling them, hey, expect that Tuesday morning we're going to have that lottery. You can go online and watch it. We had our first lawsuit drop regarding OCM.
Wow.
So we're responding to this sort of live. We've got the document here. It was posted to the state's website just about yesterday evening. So we're still reading through it. But in essence, what happened is we have 2 applicants that applied, each as individuals. The OCM denied their application, saying that their cap tables weren't complete, perhaps implying that there were other people that were involved with the business that weren't listed on the cap table.
Sure.
And these 2 individuals are saying, no, I applied as myself. There's nobody else on there. You are denying my application sort of for no reason.
Now, one question I have around cap tables.
Yeah.
If you're a sole proprietor, if there's only one person in your business, with the respect to what we're talking about, did they need to file a cap table that said Tanner Barris, 100% owner?
For sure, yeah. So we do know that they had to file that cap table. Everyone was required to fill out the application that OCM provided, which cap table was a required part of it. What these people are asking is, or excuse me, what was referenced in Jen's letter is like, do people have to go through the entire process of registering, setting up LLCs, all of that to be able to open a business?
Yeah.
Perhaps not. So these people each submitted their cap tables with themselves as 100% owners. And OCM reached back out and said, we did our record review, and alas, you're not that owner.
One thought I had as this story developed was, could OCM deem folks that were planning to operate their business like that as means for dismissal? Like, could they judge them for doing that and say, no, we're not going to pass your application?
I think OCM is sort of figuring out live on the fly what they're doing to these applications. If it was an incomplete application where maybe not enough information was provided, it appears as though OCM should have sent deficiency notices to those applicants, letting them know, hey, we need more information from you to explain this.
Yeah.
However, we now know that they only sent out 300 deficiency notices, but then rejected 1,200 applications. So there are clearly applications that were what appears to be on the outside materially deficient,
Right.
but that never received those notices. And there is, I'll be honest, one very damning statement in this complaint. Now, we want to note that this is something that someone filed. It's sort of their opinion that they filed, but I want to read this directly from here. Remarkably, plaintiffs have learned that OCM has, in fact, offered a right to appeal to some applicants. Plaintiffs are aware that at least one applicant was able to obtain reversal denial by contacting Director Briner. The applicant emailed Director Briner, who forwarded the email to Chief Regulatory Officer Zappa. Mr. Zappia then called the applicant and told him the decision would be reversed. A short time later, a denial decision for this applicant was reversed. So apparently, and I don't mean to sound like the conspiracy theorist here, but if this turns out to be true, that appeal process is available. You just have to know the director.
At the right time.
Yep. So this is all very new. This was just available to us this morning. We're still sort of responding to this live and in the moment. People are going to be listening 48 hours removed from when any of this came out, perhaps even longer than that. So please give us grace if we're responding to this and making statements that have so far proven to not be true. But if what was filed in this lawsuit is correct, that's a really, really bad look for OCM.
You said damning. Yeah, that's really weighing on me in this case because they only have to make one mistake in order for things to change.
Yep. So let's talk about a mistake that they made. So published in the Star Tribune, continuing to evolve, right? We've got a story of Ryan Appleby. Ryan Appleby is an Army veteran, a current National Guardsman, and owner of Book Fermentary and Taproom.
Yeah, I've met Ryan at Booch in
Booch, thank you.
No worries. It's in that sweet spot of the Northeast area.
Yeah.
Where, you've got Indeed and Earl Giles, and then Booch, and it used to be. We used to have hemp events there. It was
very cool.
It was a cidery. Yeah,
I love that. So
Booch bought it, and they've had plans to be cannabis forward since the beginning.
Yeah.
Before it was Booch, 2020. It was the first time there was ever a cannabis beverage bar. Jason Dayton organized a pop-up bar that was like 22.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was end of 22, like 2 years ago. So we've been doing hemp beverages in places like Booch for about 2 years.
Wow. Well, so Ryan comes to this with that experience, with that background. He was, again, I'm reading from Nuggets, the Star Tribune newsletter.
Yeah, shout out to Nuggets.
A message reviewed by the Minnesota Star Tribune sent to them included a link to a functional test version of the OCM's application system rather than the official website. Appleby was allowed to file his application for free approval for a micro business license, and he received a confirmation email informing him that it was submitted successfully. On Wednesday, however, Appleby received a notice that his application was rejected because it was submitted to the wrong site.
A test site.
A test site.
Like a dev site in a sense.
Yeah. So OCM is aware of this. OCM spokesman Josh Collins came out and said they're not clear how this happened. We're aware that it happened to 2 individuals across the state of Minnesota, but unfortunately their applications are not valid because they were not submitted through the official licensing system.
That is just such a technicality and a mistake at the same time.
Yeah, but don't worry. To quote Josh Collins, these individuals will have the opportunity to apply in the next round of applications.
Hey, never stop. Just keep moving.
Yeah, it's been a really tough week for me personally. I have been a long supporter of the Office of Cannabis Management, of Charlene, of the work that they're doing. They've been using language that has been equity forward since the get-go. And I've been really impressed by that. They've really put in work to try to make sure that community is represented and involved. I'm not the kind of person that tries to come out and like point fingers at government employees and say, you're doing a bad job. As a former government employee myself, I respect the people who do the work to make sure that our government functions. I do want to say, though, I think in this case, we were sort of let down. I think they dropped the ball, and the ways that they're seeking to repair that are just not enough.
They came out really hard.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I think makes it really tough for me. People can go back and listen to the emergency podcast, hear me talk
Please
about
do.
it.
It's one of our best.
Yeah, it's a good one. But to have OCM come out the day after sending out 1,200 notices after failing 2/3 of their class to say, yeah, I mean, you guys had the test answers. This is sort of on you. And then to have so many cases come out where, no, it's actually not on them. This is on you, Charlene. This is on you, OCM. These are times where, due to mistake, due to fault, due to whatever, the ball was dropped. And it's not up to us as individual citizens to have to make up for the mistakes made by our government.
The trust was broken.
Yeah.
I'm tired of sports analogies, and I'm guilty of them. Like, this is not sports. This is careers. This is livelihoods, opportunities. Yeah. And we have folks that have been, we know folks in the space that have been questioning the OCM for a long time.
For sure.
And now we have strong legal professionals in our space that are coming out to the press, bringing awareness to their clients' issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand where the disappointment is.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people say that lawsuits like this is delaying the process, especially for the people that put in so much effort and energy into their application to make it through the process, to get an email, hey, congratulations, you did what you needed to. You're going to be part of this lottery. I've had people say to me, you're just holding up the process. We need this to move forward. And yeah, they dropped the ball, but that's a government. Get them next time. I think that's wholly missing the mark of this was a social equity round designed to take people that were harmed by governmental actions and to give them a route to find cure, to find at least some relief from that. And yet again, we have the exact same government that has imposed cannabis prohibition for decades, now cutting social equity applicants out of the very system that was designed for them to succeed. I'm disappointed. And I think, I've had friends reach out to me this week and say, give OCM a chance. And I hear them. I do want to give, and I'm waiting to get more information from the state, from other actors, just to figure out what happened. But from what we know now,
Yeah.
I'm
There's
let down.
Yes, there's absolute, it's, I think we can end it right there and we'll take a quick break, but we're seeing alignment, or there's alignment now between legal professionals, which I have yet to see across the spectrum of groups and people in this space. But then I'm also noticing entitlement on the side of, I didn't receive a deficiency notice, so you shouldn't, you shouldn't care about this, or you should get them next time. When we know, I mean, here's a provocative question. How did we know there was 1,169 no's or denials? I mean, it seems like I was at a networking event last night at Modest, and they were wondering, how did MinPost get leaked all of this information? Because it aired through MinPost. It debuted in print.
Yeah. So we're going to take a short break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about all the rest of the news that's happening across the state of Minnesota, across our country, because guys, it was a busy week, and we're sticking around to break it all down for you. So stick around, and we'll be right back. Ready to kick off your home grow? We've got the perfect hookup for you. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. They've got everything from fast flowering strains to unique hybrids, all ready for growing in Minnesota. And guess what? Our listeners get an exclusive deal. Use the code NL10 for a 10% discount on your entire order. Don't miss out and get started with the best seeds. Start your growth strong with MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Remember, NL10 for 10% off at MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Grab your seeds today. So it's another month, which means it's time for another Seed of the Month with Natural Harvest. Casey, we're super happy to have you here back in the studio.
Hey, Tanner. Thanks for having me back. Great to be here.
Yeah, so it's November, which means it's time for another Seed of the Month. Now, just before we jump into what the actual Seed of the Month is, tell us a little bit about who Natural Harvest is. We were stoked to have you on the show just a couple weeks back. For people who maybe missed that, who is Natural Harvest?
Thanks. Yeah, Natural Harvest, we're a local seed bank here based in Minnesota. We ship countrywide, but our focus is on the Minnesota market.
Very cool. And you're a cultivator yourself, right? You're a home grower here in Minnesota?
I am. Many years ago when I was in college, grew quite a bit, took a back seat for many years. And then certainly, as the legalization came, it was kind of counting down the days until I was able to again.
I love that. Yeah, a study that came out from the state of Minnesota said that almost a quarter of cannabis consumers are growing at home in Minnesota, which I think is incredible. Shout out to home growers across the state.
No doubt. That's awesome. I mean, we go to events all over the place and we see tons of people, and it's amazing how many people are interested. And I think really going back, right, indoor growing has kind of always been the focus here in Minnesota. We have such limited time that, it's always been there. It's just, now it's out in the open.
Exactly. Now we're able to talk about it. Now you're able to have subscription services delivering genetics. I think that's pretty cool. So on that point, we talked about this a little bit on the show when you were on, but tell us about this subscription plan you have and how people can get genetics to their front door.
Sure. Yeah, we have 3 different plans. The Harvest Hero is our kind of top end box. It's $60 a month plus shipping. Budding Grower is $35 a month, and then our introductory plan, the Seedling Starter, is $15 a month.
Awesome. Very cool. So no matter where you're looking to enter in, you can get seeds delivered right to your door, ready to start growing.
Yeah, and it gives you a really good opportunity, whether you're new and not really sure where to go, right? There's thousands of options out there. So it's kind of a no-brainer, here's what you get, versus, even seasoned growers, right? It's something new and different and fun to try, and you don't have to, put a lot of effort into it. Let us do the hard part.
I love that. So let's get to it. It's November. What is the Seed of the Month that we got going into this month?
Yeah, super excited about this one. This month is Slurricane.
Okay.
So it's a cross between Do-Si-Do and Purple Punch.
Awesome. 2 classic cultivars. Purple Punch is a really fun one. I had a friend who grew a cross that had some of that in the lineage and definitely came through. You could see that purple. It was really a treat.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm really excited to see how it turns out for people. I haven't grown any of it myself, but I did recently do do-si-do outside over the summer that's drying right now.
Okay.
So super excited about that.
How's it smelling? I know you said it's drying now, but sort of the early initial thoughts of it?
Oh, it smells great. Yeah, I'm really excited. So.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm excited for people to get that box in the mail, to get those genetics into soil, into cocoa, however people are growing, and just get that growing across Minnesota. So people are looking to sign up for that. Maybe they aren't yet signed up for your subscription plan. Where can they go to get themselves up for that?
Sure. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com.
Awesome. And MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com, that's what you said?
MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com.
I love that. Awesome. Go check that out today. You can get signed up, get those genetics right to your front door, and start growing. I'm really looking forward to that one. I've never grown slurricane ever before in my tent, and this feels like a good excuse to maybe give it a go.
Try something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Casey, thank you so much for coming in the studio today. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to have you back next month to see what seeds people can be getting delivered.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, so Steve, that was a lot of talking about the Office of Cannabis Management, everything going on with the lottery. There was a lot else that happened in Minnesota this week. Let's go ahead and break that down.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it. So the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board, their current policy allows the use of cannabis in parks, but it might change next year under a new proposal put out.
Yeah.
And they're looking for public input.
Yeah, so as of right now, and I got to be honest, sort of surprised to learn this. In Minneapolis parks, you're not allowed to smoke tobacco. That's currently banned because there's a rule that specifically says no smoking tobacco.
Yes.
But there's no rule that says specifically no smoking.
Yes. I remember learning about this loophole on the Northern Lights podcast, like listening to you and Marcus talk about policy around Minneapolis.
Absolutely. So Minneapolis has now circled around and said, all right, we've passed our zoning ordinance. We've sort of figured out what we're doing on the business side. Let's have the parks sort of check in and figure out what is the policy that we want to have for people as they're consuming cannabis. Sales will be available next year, knock on wood. And, people will be going out and looking to consume cannabis out in public. What does it look like if you're in Minneapolis? Well, we got our first little hint of what that might look like this week.
Right on. And I love that they're working on this in November, going into the end of the year. It's like, they're not really too worried about parks. Parks are kind of on the low for the next few months. And so, let's jump into it.
Yeah. So as people can probably expect, the Minneapolis Park Board is coming out and seeking to prevent people from smoking cannabis or vaping THC in any park.
This sucks. Like I'm bummed.
Yeah. I got to be honest. As someone who enjoys going to the park and smoking up a joint or hitting the pen or whatever, I was personally disappointed to see this. Now, I will say I'm glad that the enforcement mechanism behind this rule is that they can come over and ask you to leave or ask you to stop.
Okay. That's nice.
And so the likelihood that this will escalate into a criminal penalty is low, but it is still technically possible. You can get a disorderly conduct citation if you refuse to leave the park.
Sure.
So still not ideal. In fact, they're evaluating whether they want this to be an ordinance, which would make it perhaps a criminal penalty if people refused, or a policy, in which case, the park police is going to say, knock it off. They're going to ask you to stop. And if you don't, then come on, man. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
We're in a park. Everyone's enjoying it. That mom over there asked you to stop. We're asking you to stop. Just stop.
I'm envisioning a guy or girl who brought their bong to the park.
Yeah, totally.
And he just keeps packing a bowl.
Yeah, I could see the park not being cool with that. What I could see the park being cool with, however, is someone walking through and hitting their vape pen every so often and not bothering people around them, because that's not going to cause a bunch of people to come over and ask you to stop, just like it hasn't been for decades of people smoking in parks.
I mean, I would really like Minneapolis to go that route with this and not make it an ordinance.
Yeah.
And that would be a couple of nice moves in a row for Minneapolis to sort of come back towards a little more cannabis friendly of a city.
Yeah. Yeah, so one thing that people can consider if they're looking to provide feedback, we're not telling you you have to or what to say, but if you would like to comment on the fact that we shouldn't have people potentially charged with a crime for smoking cannabis in a park,
right?
That might be one thing that you could comment on. That's probably a pretty good point to make. The other thing that Minneapolis is considering is not just on the consumption of cannabis in parks, but actually the sale of cannabis in parks.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to get into this one. So a second proposal would regulate the sale of THC edibles and beverages on park board land by authorized vendors, like vendors that we know, small businesses, and during events at these parks. And it would cap the potency of edibles. But I mean, we're talking about 5 milligrams, which is pretty standard right now.
Yeah.
I guess it would be more of a low dose opportunity.
Totally. Here's what I was thinking of. Did you go to Pride this year at all? Twin Cities Pride?
I heard about what they did.
Yeah, so they had a little cannabis alley, but it wasn't in the park. It was actually on the street outside of the park, because you can sell cannabis there, but in the park, not allowed.
Was it on the street, like within Loring Park?
No, it was like right off of like you step out of the park.
Yeah.
You're walking in the street, and then you cross over, and there's the cannabis area.
Oh, interesting.
This would change it so that low potency hemp edibles could be sold perhaps at Twin Cities Pride or other types of events that are held in Minneapolis parks.
And there are so many Minneapolis parks.
There are so many. And so many events that people want to be consuming THC at.
Wow.
Now, one thing that I did find really interesting is technically people wouldn't be allowed to consume above 5 milligram edibles in a park.
They wouldn't be allowed to consume them.
Yeah, so the rule would be if you're eating edibles or drinking an edible beverage in a park, it has to follow that 5 milligram per serving hemp-derived rule. If I have, for example, a year from now, we have stores open, I buy my adult use chocolate bar with 100 milligrams, 10 milligrams per serving.
Yeah.
Technically, under this rule, you're not supposed to eat that in the park.
So, like, I could probably take edibles next year, but you wouldn't necessarily be able to take edibles next year.
It maybe not in the park itself.
That's
yeah,
right.
so
sorry, that's silly.
I know. Especially as we're going to have licensed adult use cannabis events, perhaps held in Minneapolis parks.
Oh yeah.
I would love to see some changes.
Maybe just not restrict the consumption.
Yeah.
But are they saying that the products purchased from the park vendors couldn't be consumed on site?
No, so these would be for on-site consumption.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just saying that if there was a vendor who's selling it through the park, they would have to keep to that 5 milligram cap.
I see. So the new brands, the new businesses are I think dispensaries are going to be behind locked doors. It's like, very Zaza cannabis-like, unfortunately. So
here's the one thing that I thought was really interesting from this. If this sticks exactly as it is, this might be one of those carve-outs for the people that have been saying hemp will stick around in adult use, which I'm questioning. But I think stuff like this could really solidify that if we have places like parks where adult use, not allowed. Hemp?
Yeah.
Come on in.
Okay, we can have Summit beer at the park.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have Grey Duck vodka at the park.
I suppose, yeah.
That's how I would feel comfortable with that. I think hemp 5 milligram, I think we all know in this room that it doesn't like completely mess you up. Like 5 milligram drink, it doesn't like do crazy things to you. So I think it's similar to beer.
Yeah. Well, so that was an interesting one out of Minneapolis. We'll put the link where people can go and provide feedback. If they're interested in going and providing your public comment, definitely do that. But let's talk about another city.
Let's talk about Duluth.
So Duluth did a while ago ban cannabis smoking in their parks and are now doing the opposite of Minneapolis, where they figured out the smoking, now are trying to figure out the business side. Minneapolis already has that covered. Well, so Duluth introduced their ordinance to regulate how cannabis businesses are going to be regulated within the city of Duluth. And I got to be honest, they're going to be regulated pretty similar to most other businesses in the city. Okay. There's been some ordinances that have come out that I think are pretty low quality. This is one that I think is pretty middle of the line. It follows the cap written in statute. It doesn't put any unreasonable restrictions between shops or schools or whatever. It's a pretty fine policy. But there are two things that I wanted to pull out that I thought were really interesting, because every city is sort of that lab of democracy, figuring out how will cannabis look. Two things that how it will look in Duluth.
Are you talking about compliance?
Absolutely. So let's say you wanted to hold an event in Duluth. Steve, you've been known to hold cannabis events before. I've been to some of them.
Yes.
They're pretty fun. And if you wanted to hold one in Duluth, you wanted people to be able to sell adult use products at that event.
Yeah.
The city of Duluth is saying that can only be held at the Bayfront Festival Park.
I'm really glad you started with this because I wasn't sure if you were going to mention it.
Yeah.
I think it's been a question of where do they smoke in Duluth, and that's been a point of contention. And they're just being like, okay, we know we have great events here. We have a tourism, income stream in Duluth, and we have a great beer scene.
Yeah.
And so they're pulling on their past experiences and being like, we're going to concentrate it to one area. But you know what they did? They allowed concentrates in Bayfront Festival Park.
Absolutely. I'm excited to go to my first festival at Bayfront.
Yeah. I mean, I can already see Legacy Glassworks, Legacy Cannabis with Bent Paddle, summer 2025. It's coming.
So it's a really interesting approach to regulation. I personally don't like this approach, but I think it's at least a step forward, testing it out. I think there might be people who have shops in Duluth, people that we might know,
Right.
who want to hold cannabis festivals, and they're now being told, if you want to do it in Duluth, here is where you do it.
But they're also saying, like, we know it works here.
It's true. Yeah, no, that's very true. And it will be nice to have a festival area with the infrastructure needed to host events already sort of set aside and earmarked specifically as cannabis. Good to go.
As long as you haven't changed ownership structure.
Yeah, so that's the other part of this. So we see every city trying to figure out, how do we have our own little hand on regulation? Maybe it's through temporary or permanent use approval. We've seen a lot of different ways.
How do we keep tabs?
Exactly. So people should know, if you have more than a 10% ownership in a cannabis business, the state of Minnesota already knows about that. But Duluth is really interested in who owns businesses in their town. So they require you to file any person who owns at least 5% or more of your business. And then anytime there is any shift in ownership structure, maybe like, Steve, you chipped $100 into the business, so we're going to give you another 2% equity.
We're talking about just cannabis businesses in this case?
Just cannabis businesses. You need to notify the city. Any change, even the most minor change, will force the city to do another inspection, go through the entire licensing process, and that is all paid for by the applicant themselves, the business.
Right. Okay, so, these two guys start a cannabis business.
Yep.
They start to have some success. They sell some of their equity in the company.
Yep.
They've now changed their ownership structure.
Yep.
If they come back to Duluth, even though they've done an event in Duluth, they're going to have to pay for that compliance check.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. This is even if you hold a cannabis license and you're selling products out of your store. If you have a retail front and you shift ownership slightly,
If you're a
You go through the
manufacturing
entire
company
review
in
process.
Duluth
Yeah.
and you've got a recreational cannabis license in the state of Minnesota,
Yep.
it applies to all license types taking place in Duluth. These
Yeah.
businesses that are taking place in Duluth.
yeah. So it's an interesting one. So two things that I just wanted to flag that Duluth is doing that are a little bit different than other cities. We've seen other cities restrict where events can be. We've seen other cities try to keep tabs on things, but this is a unique Duluth, keep it weird way of regulating cannabis.
Hey, if they're anticipating that, changing business structure means you're making more money, they're looking to make a little more money.
I suppose. Well, speaking of people looking to make a little bit more money,
Hey, let's talk about Vireo.
let's talk about Vireo. Now, people in Minnesota probably know Vireo more by the name of Green Goods. It's a retailer throughout the state of Minnesota. You probably know them as Vireo Solutions back in the day. They've been a couple different names, but
Vireo Growth.
yeah, exactly. The reason that we're talking about them today is that we could very soon here see some really interesting action out of that company, specifically their employees in the results of a strike.
Yeah, we saw this drop on Reddit. Shout out to the MN Trees community. And I think this is really interesting given that Vireo operates with a union and, the ties to Union Bank. And I'm just like understanding more this season about Vireo or Green Goods. And, they've gotten into the hemp space. They're preparing, it appears, to be growing more in anticipation for 2025 and opening more dispensaries. And their employees want more money.
Yep, absolutely. So they've been in negotiations for a couple months now. We're coming up to a point where they're reaching the end of their contract. After their last meeting that they had, which was, November 21st, so the day before we recorded this podcast. We should say that.
Shout out to the Northern Lights podcast.
Yeah. There was some updates where the contract was extended to December 6th. So we have that new sort of date in the sand of when, if we don't have an agreement by then, we could see the employees take actions to strike.
Wow.
So
Okay.
what does that proposal look like as of right now? Vireo came back to the employees and offered them a couple different things. One is a wage increase of 3% for the top scales and an increase to the scales. Now, employees have come out and said, for some of this, that's like a 30-cent per hour raise.
Yeah.
That's sort of not super meaningful. They have said that they're going to increase the production scale to go up to $18 per hour, because right now, if you start, you're making $16.40 an hour.
Yeah, you're making $16.40 an hour at a. I mean, I get that they're a small business, but man, do they
operate
hold
in 3 states? So
Yeah.
They plan to maintain that employer healthcare contributions, which is definitely important. As of right now, Rise, the dispensary in Minnesota, you can tip your bud tender at.
Okay.
At Green Goods, they can actually get fired if they accept tips from people.
Wow.
Yeah. So this contract is allowing them to accept tips, but they're not allowed to put out a tip jar until adult use rolls out.
Yeah, I'm seeing that in my head. Like I'm thinking back to from what we've heard in the early days, and we just got flower a couple of years ago here, right?
Yeah.
So a true bud tender is more of a proper term. As a medical company, I can understand why they were not asking for tips.
Totally. And I definitely can understand. You have a bunch of med patients come in, they're picking up their medicine, asking for a couple bucks is tough.
But this is a case where it's now much easier to get a medical card.
Yep.
And their processes and their rules that are in place as a company are outdated.
Yep.
And so they're going to their union as a group and they're saying collectively, we want things to change.
Yeah, and you can say, like, I'm not a huge fan of tip culture. I used to work at Caribou. Like, I loved the tips then.
Yeah.
But, like, I wish we had a culture that actually paid people their worth.
Yeah.
And I think if you as a company say to yourself, we are so, morally driven that we don't want to ask our med patients for tips,
Sure.
then pay your employees better.
Yeah, 1640. I mean, we're seeing better jobs advertised at fast food restaurants.
Yeah. And then the last thing is the contract is now officially added Juneteenth as a holiday. Now, I read through the proposal from Vireo. I didn't include it in the notes here, but the union had actually asked for April 20th to also be listed as an official company holiday. Company said no.
That's going to lose a lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah, unfortunately, if we're closed on 420, what are we doing? I don't know. But yeah, definitely a shout out to the union. Local 1189, they're doing good work, and we need people that are growing the weed, that are processing the weed, that are selling the weed, that are getting this product to people, being able to go home and afford housing and food. And
Yeah, at this time, we have a chance to bring on board a new industry. Let's bring people with us and not just focus on the bottom line. And
yeah, so shout out to UFCW if you want to come on our podcast.
yeah,
We'd love to have you.
we'd love to learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. So people should keep watching that. That's another one of these evolving stories that we keep talking about today that you guys probably don't know more than we do yet, but will very, very soon. So definitely keep watching that. We'll put a link to the union's website in our show notes. You can read that most recent update and then also follow along for new updates. Man, that's going to be a busy show notes this week.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Northern Lights is brought to you by Dabbler Depot THC. With 3 Twin Cities locations, Dabbler Depot is proud to deliver expert knowledge, finely crafted products from gummies and seltzers to grow tents and nutrients, as well as a one-of-a-kind cannabis shopping experience to all levels of enthusiasts, growers, and the canna curious. Their East Side St. Paul store, Seed and Sesh, is also the happy home of the podcast you're listening to right now. So be sure to stop by every Friday between 2 and 4 p.m. to get a live look at your favorite cannabis podcast being recorded. On top of that, you're also welcome to come to the Seed and Sesh every Tuesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. for their home grower meetup night. Come hang out and get connected with the ever-growing cannabis community here in the Twin Cities. Dabbler Depot's Seed and Sesh can be found at 951 Payne Avenue, St. Paul. Their flagship store is located at 1545 West 7th Street, St. Paul, and their South Minneapolis location is at 4152 South 28th Street, right across the street from the Baker's Wife Bakery. Or you can shop online, DabblerDepotTHC.com. Dabbler Depot THC, growing plants, growing community. Northern Lights is brought to you by the Winter Beer Dabbler, Minnesota's premier craft beer festival. The winter weather will be upon us before we know it, which means the best beer party of the year is getting closer and closer. Join your fellow hardy Minnesotans at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds on February 22nd, 2025 from 3 to 6:30 p.m. and enjoy unlimited samples from hundreds of breweries, cideries, and other yummy libation creators. With general admission, early access, and designated driver tickets available, there is an opportunity for everyone in your crew to have a brew-induced blast. For tickets and more information, you can visit beerdabbler.com/festivals. Winter Beer Dabbler. So, Minnesota. And we're back. So, Steve, I got one more piece of news that I want to talk about today. We're not even touching the federal farm bill that came out that could potentially blow up the entire national hemp-derived THC industry.
There's a new draft of a farm bill?
Yeah, it's the draft that came out would ban anything that is above 0.3% THC, including THCA. So all the flower, all the cannabinoids, all that stuff out of here.
Yeah,
We're going to say that for next time. We're also not going to talk about today the lawsuit that was filed that could potentially change the makeup of the Minnesota House. There's a House member that potentially could be losing their seat if that lawsuit goes through, changing the House from a split control to Republican control. We're going to save all of that for a future episode because we've had a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about today. And instead, what I want to talk about is a study that came out about the U of M.
Shout out to the MN Daily.
Yeah, absolutely. Minnesota Daily, one of my favorite, no longer daily newspapers, but still an incredible paper. They published the results that came out of a Boynton Health report that looked at the college students of this year, asking, what are you guys doing? Are you guys doing drugs?
Are you doing less?
Are you drinking?
Doing more?
What are you doing? And the results have come out, and not necessarily surprising in the way that they changed, but I think in the numbers that they changed.
Oh.
So high-risk drinking among University of Minnesota students, which is drinking more than five or more alcoholic beverages in one sitting.
That was common when I was in college.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wonder if it's still common today. Well, according to the U of M, it is 10% less common.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty significant drop. Imagine you're at that party, look around, you got 10 people there. For every 10 people, one of those people is now just gone because they're at home smoking weed.
Yes.
Yeah, so the other thing that we saw is on the opposite side, cannabis use is up roughly 9%. We've got that.
You're doing the
bit of the
math.
swap.
We're doing the math. We're seeing it in liquor stores. Guess where all these products are sold?
Where at?
Well, a lot of them are sold at liquor stores.
Yeah. We've got these students that have been going to liquor stores, seeing alcohol for a long time,
Yeah.
seeing cannabis and going, maybe I'll give it a try, and then making the switch like permanently.
Or trying it, realizing it's less dangerous, maybe preferring that as an option.
Yeah. So
I
we
love
now
it.
officially have 27% of college students, according to this report,
Okay.
have consumed cannabis of some time, whereas only 24% have had high-risk drinking activity.
More cannabis consumption than alcohol consumption.
Yeah. So very interesting.
Of high risk.
Yeah. We should clarify there is still more people drinking alcohol than smoking cannabis, but that tide is shifting.
And I love that we're seeing cannabis is not a gateway drug.
Mm-hmm.
Cannabis is an alternative to alcohol.
Yeah. I've heard so many podcasts and stories from experts and documentaries and whatever, where the question is asked, if you could wave a magic wand and have everyone smoke weed instead of alcohol, would you?
Really?
And all these public health experts go, of course. Yeah, cannabis isn't healthy, but it's a sure heck of a lot better for society than alcohol is. So shout out to students for making good choices.
And shout out to the MN Daily. Let's get in touch with the U of M.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I was thinking about that trend of alcohol to THC, that shift of people going from, I'm drinking alcohol to, now I'm drinking cannabis.
Tell me more.
And it got me thinking, do I know any businesses or people who have sort of made that change from alcohol to THC? Or maybe they're still doing the alcohol, but they're exploring other ways of connecting with people around liquid libations, if you will.
Making modifications.
Yeah. And so then I got a text from you as I was sitting at my desk thinking about this, saying, brand new beverage for the podcast. And I went, oh, shit. Modest Brewing.
They're back.
Yeah. Such a great example of people on that beverage side, really deep in that craft alcohol community that saw the opportunity for cannabis and now are leaning in full strength. And I'm so excited to try these two that I just got emailed to me like yesterday. I've never seen these.
You saw the email.
Oh yeah. I'm of course subscribed to the Modest
Me
emails.
too. Me too. And as a lot of you know here, like Tanner covers the news. He keeps up with it. He understands it. He tracks it, and that's how all these episodes are made.
Appreciate that.
But for me to be able to bring fresh product while you're bringing fresh stories makes this a super fresh episode.
Super fresh, super fly. And I'm excited to jump into these. Now, I thought it was sodas, but this is pop.
This is pop. That's funny. This is a Minnesota brewery, Modest Brewing, and these are taproom exclusive until they're out in distro.
Okay, very cool.
Go over to Modest, pick up a 4-pack, tell them Andy sent you, and shout out to the whole team over at Modest.
And I love let's just jump into it. I love the design work on these melt pop cans. It's just such a fun twist on their usual melt graphics.
Yeah.
But that make it like really playful. It's sort of like, it gives me like a 90s retro vibe almost.
Very, very Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah, there we go. So you brought in 2 different flavors for us to try today. The citrus punch and the sangria ginger ale.
Yeah. So I was talking to Andy about it last night when I picked these up, and they're similar to the ginger lemon lime. It's a tweak on the sangria is a nice bend on that. I think you're going to like that one.
Okay.
And then the citrus punch is reminiscent of like that blood orange vanilla, but they've tweaked the flavors ever so much to create these new product categories or these SKUs.
That's so cool. And well, let's not hide the fact. We've got some 4 Canna back there made at Modest Brewing, and these cans, they just look a little bit smaller, but we still have 10 milligrams of THC in there.
Wow. So Modest has dropped it from a 16 ounce to a 12, and they're packing the 10 milligrams in there. Yeah. I haven't seen that before. Modest was always running the big cans.
Yeah. That's a new thing. All right. We've done the talking. I want to try this. We've talked about so much news today. I'm excited to crack open a can of some melt pop and give it a go.
I am too. Honestly, I'm parched, and that was a lot of news to get through. So, shout out to Modest. Let's go. Which one do you want to start with?
All right. I want to start with the sangria ginger ale because the citrus punch, I hear that and I go, of course I'm going to like that.
Yeah.
The sangria ginger ale is generally on the side of flavors that I don't indulge in, so I'm really interested to jump into this and give it a try.
Absolutely. I haven't had this one yet, so this will be new for all three of
all right.
us.
Perfect. And Jordan, we're going to get you involved too, so make sure that you give this one a sample. Oh, we've had so many people shout out that they're just fans of ASMR, and they got turned on to the Northern Lights podcast because they just heard us, vaping in front of the microphone or our wonderful can opening sound.
One day we'll go viral on TikTok.
It's going to happen. Maybe that's the video. It's just a video of us talking about going viral. Those kids these days, they like their meta, so.
True.
Wow. Beautiful color to it. So I saw online this includes both natural and artificial flavors, so I'm expecting like a really strong flavor blast to this. I'm excited to see if that's what we get from it.
Yeah, THC-infused soda with natural and artificial flavors, hemp-derived THC, and let's keep this product out of reach of children.
All right. Well,
cheers.
Guys. Let's give it a try. Wow.
That's deep.
Yeah. All right. I really, really like that. I wasn't really sure what I was going to get with that sangria, but you get like a little bit of the ginger on the back end, but that is so like flavorful.
That's an adult
Fruity
pop.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, the ooh, froggy.
Hey.
The sweetness is perfectly sweet.
Wow.
Like it's got that kind of like soda pop type flavoring.
Oh,
not really like that white claw kind of
clinical
sweetness. It's like it's just really well balanced in its mouthfeel and the flavors. Yeah, like you said, the ginger comes in the back and the kind of sweet, almost like berry sangria.
No cannabis taste in my mouth.
Yeah,
No,
I got
at
zero
all.
weediness. Yeah.
Yeah, for the people that tried the Northern Lights beverage and went, that tastes a bit like weed, give this one a try because that is no weed taste. But that's an incredible berry flavor is spot on. Like you get that, like
Yeah, it's there.
raspberry almost.
It's
Like
lasting too. I chugged it and I'm loving this. This is really refreshing. It's like an adult pop. I would pick these up right away. Modest has got a winner.
Yeah. Anytime I see, I'll be honest, anytime I see ale on a title, I'm not a beer drinker. So I sort of get hesitant that maybe they're playing with some of those beer notes.
Yeah.
This is a tried and true soda. Like
Yes.
this is pop.
Ginger ale.
Yeah.
But I love the name, being that they're a beer company as well, that they're able to make a THC beverage that has a title with ale.
Yeah.
It's cheeky. It's complex at the same time. Good
For
job.
sure.
I mean, it's reminiscent of like that cranberry, like Schweppes cranberry ginger ale that like, you know, you would have at Thanksgiving before you could drink wine or whatever. It was like,
Yes.
yeah, like cranberry ginger ale.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, is this going to be our Thanksgiving beverage that we bring home and try to encourage people to try?
I love that idea. Yeah. Head out this week, get your melt pop before the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Something to take the edge off on Thanksgiving.
And I'm just glad that the three of us get to go to Modest before this episode comes out so we can make sure to grab one. Oh, yeah, I'll take a little bit more, please. Thank you. Wow. This is a good one. I would definitely recommend that people check this out. And I can't believe that we're only halfway through trying these. Like, I was excited when I saw the citrus, and we haven't even gotten there yet. This is enjoyable. Wow. All right. So that melt sangria ginger ale, I would definitely go and pick that up. But I got to be honest, as I said earlier, if I walked into the Modest tap room, I saw the signs on the wall, and I got to pick one of them, I wouldn't have picked that one. I would now, but I would have picked Citrus Punch.
You know, let's throw this out there. If you're going to go shop at Modest, you can ask them for that 2-in-2 pack. You know, that Northern Lights special.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, pick up 2 citrus punches, 2 sangria ginger ales. But I guess we got to try it first.
And be sure to ask the person working at Modest for the Northern Lights special. And when they ask, what is that? Ask them, oh, do you not watch the Northern Lights podcast?
Yeah.
And then send them a link. But yeah, let's bust open the
That
Citrus Punch
420 special, 4 cans, $20,
Yeah, exactly. All right, Citrus Punch. I'm expecting something a little orangey, but also having that like fruit punch flavor to it. And I'm excited to see if this lives up to that expectation.
I love the color of the can, and now it's matching with the
Yeah, wow, spot on.
Okay, this is very orange Kool-Aid, orange soda pop kind of look to it. Like it's deep.
Yeah, it looks like it should come in like a clear plastic bottle with a...
This is more fun than their seltzers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I loved how the Northern Lights beverage tasted, but it sort of looked like raspberry water.
Right.
Which was delicious.
Yes.
But this looks like radioactive almost. Like this is really cool. All right, let's give it a sample. Salud.
Salud.
Oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. Yeah.
Not too strong.
No, you get the orangey on the front end. You get that fruit punch on the back end.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing.
It comes together.
It's smooth. What is fruit punch? It's like a combo flavor, right?
Yeah. It's actually funny that you asked that because different flavor companies have different ideas on what fruit punch is.
Sure.
And is sometimes made up of like different collections of fruit that are part of that.
Right. Yeah, I guess I have seen that.
Does it taste like pineapple a little bit? Maybe. A little bit of
a little bit.
Maybe a little bit of cherry. A little bit of
orange.
Yeah. Well, I would hope. All right.
I guess that's the citrus part.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
If people give this a try, drop in the comments below. What fruit are you tasting in this fruit punch? What about you, Jordan? What do you think?
It's like every fruit. It's just like
A through Z.
fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like all of them. I'm getting, like what you guys mentioned, pineapple, berry, orange, obviously.
Yeah,
but
picture like one of those lottery machines that's like spinning with cherries and then it's just all a fruit. That's what this tastes like. It's
A
just
lottery?
But again, it's super balanced.
Don't use those words. It's triggering.
Fruit lottery.
It's super balanced and nothing really dominates anything else. Like and again, that mouthfeel it's a nice, perfectly carbonated, not too fizzy, not flat at all. Like,
Yeah.
I really, really like both of these products, and I generally am pretty picky when it comes to these seltzers. So
Yeah. One thing that I've sort of been not like concerned about, but watching for is how much sugar ends up going into these beverages.
Yep.
And well, this is definitely, a little bit higher on sugar. You got 17 grams in the can. I think you're getting such a flavor for it that it feels less offensive to me because you're getting that soda. It tastes like a sugary soda, but it's really, really good.
Yeah. And on the comparison of other sodas, 17 grams is not as much as I've seen, close to 50 grams.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I know the whole hemp community has taken this approach of we got to have low sugar. And while I don't disagree with that, I also like doing that. That is way different than the beverage community takes because they don't care. They'll put whatever you need to get you to drink it.
CBD was sugar-free.
Yeah.
THC is, all day.
All day.
But yeah, again, thanks to Modest, Andy, the whole crew over there. Definitely go support their brewery.
Yeah. And you said that's a taproom exclusive, so you got to go to Modest to get it?
Yeah, Thanksgiving week, honestly, I'd go, if I was doing this over again, I'd probably go 4 sangrias.
Okay.
But the citrus punch is fun. I just like that more adult pop flavor to it.
Well, I'm headed up to Moorhead in just a couple days for our annual Thanksgiving celebration, and I'll have to swing by Modest on the way and grab a couple of those.
Grab some sangria.
There we go. Well, I think we should take a short break here. We're going to do a segment of an interview with our buddy Sean from North Star Law Group. Really awesome interview. I recommend people listen through the entire conversation, not just because Steve did the conversation, but also because it's a really awesome dig into how he got into law.
Not super cool, but gosh, what a captivating message. I mean, Sean really comes from a family perspective and trying to create change in his family. Mm-hmm. And that's what you want to see in inspiring roles like criminal defense attorneys.
Yeah, absolutely. After that, we've got Tanner's Chirp Tasting. I'm excited. We bring Kale back in. We make him do a dab. We try out some Big Cat Hash, which I'm excited to get on the show this week. It smells pretty good. And then stick around for the way end because we've got high notes. There's more. Stick around. We'll be right back. Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, a trusted partner for small businesses in Minnesota's legal cannabis industry. Whether you've already applied for a license or just getting started, attorney Jen Riza and her team can help you build a compliant business, identify and navigate risks, put together an application, and keep you informed about the ever-changing Minnesota cannabis landscape. Are you ready to add North Star to your team? Visit northstarlaw.com/cannabis and let North Star Law Group guide you through confidently opening your doors. Again, that's northstarlaw.com/cannabis.
A homie of mine introduced me to Gucci Mane in NWA.
In 5th grade.
Yeah, a little early. And then I got into MF Doom, who's always going to be my favorite MC now. America's Most Blunted.
Yeah. No, I'm familiar. I think it's really cool folks that have MF Doom as their favorite. They've put the work in to understand the artist and also the culture around. It's similar to it's very niche. There aren't a lot of MF Dooms, and when he passed, it sent shockwaves through the hip hop community.
100%. I remember. I think it released on either the night before New Year's Eve, or it was New Year's Eve, or it was New Year's, and they said he had died on Halloween.
Yes.
And so I remember for years, I was trying to figure out cause of death, right? And it turned out, I think it was a complication from a pretty routine surgery.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, Yassine Bey, Mos Def, that was his favorite MC, right? Mm-hmm. I think he said that in an interview. And just the wordplay, multiple syllable rhyme schemes, and just weird syllables too. That's what really drew me to MF Doom. And then from there, Earl Sweatshirt, because he's kind of the inheritor of MF Doom's kind of style in my mind, at least.
So we could go into more Wolfgang and Odd Future, but also where were you acquiring hip hop through your small town of Pine City? So I kind of remember downloading off Kazaa and Napster, and And then, you know, as you got older into high school, I had access to MTV Jams, channel 142, which really was my favorite channel to watch. Just put on hip hop music videos and just like learn about new music. So like, how did you find new music in Pine City?
Oh gosh. So obviously the homies, like all my buddies, right, would be passing me music. Those are the days of like LimeWire and BearShare, which I've never used, obviously, but
right.
YouTube had just become popular. I think YouTube came out in like 2005, 2006, 2007. So I would have been 5th, 6th, 7th grade. And so music was coming out on YouTube as well. And
first YouTube video is actually like Como Park. It originated in like these guys out of St. Paul. Like one of the first videos is like a bear at the Como Zoo.
That is wild.
And I want to say YouTube's like 03, 04.
Okay. So even earlier than I thought it was.
I think so.
But yeah, buddies would just pass me hip hop. I remember like Lemonade, Gucci Mane.
Yeah.
I heard that. Came up on NWA, Jay-Z, stuff like that.
What year did you finish high school?
2012.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, Lemonade, Gucci Mane for sure. And then all the remixes, like the Big Sean remix and that beat goes so hard. I even went to high school with guys that like, you know, tried to get into the music industry and like they rapped over that beat. And so like I also have that reference point. And 2012, well actually just before 2012, like 2010, 2011, I was hosting a college radio station, like a hip hop Friday afternoon show called Fresh Beats Old Heat with a couple guys.
Okay.
And so like I remember playing that Big Sean version of Lemonade on the college radio show. But man, let's get into it.
Sure.
So I'm here with Sean Paul Kehren from North Star Law Group. Sean, welcome to the Northern Lights podcast.
Howdy.
Hey, dude, it's great to meet you. It's great to see you. I think we met at Canna Connect 4 in April.
Yep.
Right after the 4-canna launch of the beverage, which we got it right over there.
Ooh.
And Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why are you here today? And then let's dig into kind of your background as well.
Sure. So I'm an attorney with North Star Law Group. I work in criminal defense, civil litigation, a lot of construction companies. And then I was just recently brought onto the cannabis team as well. So I kind of have my hand on multiple different pots, I suppose.
Awesome. Yeah, North Star Law Group, huge supporters of the Northern Lights podcast, the Minnesota Cannabis College. We thank you for your support. And we also love working with you guys. You guys do a great job in the community, and I just want to highlight that, and I appreciate everything you're doing right now.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Right on. So let's go back a little bit.
Sure.
You grew up in Pine City, Minnesota. Tell us a little bit about your family background, and from there, kind of what were the common perceptions of cannabis in your community?
Yeah, so Pine City, small town up north, about an hour 15 minutes north of the cities. I moved up there after kindergarten, and so my parents had split up. My mother was actually working in the prison system.
Okay.
It was a good union job. It provided pretty good benefits for us, and so she really, really worked hard. Growing up there, town of about 3,000 people, little over.
Sure.
And so my father wasn't super into my life. He had kind of shared custody. He lived with my grandfather down south, just south of the cities.
Okay.
In Savage, Minnesota.
Sure.
So I'd kind of travel back and forth there. And I think the first time I was ever exposed to cannabis was really young from my father.
Okay.
And I didn't realize it was cannabis at the time.
Sure.
So I remember we were at a job site with him, I think. He was a bricklayer.
Okay.
And he pulled out this like little metal thing, which I later come to find out is a oney.
Yeah.
And he hit that, and I was like, "What's that smell?" And he's like, "Oh, that's tobacco." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's what it
That's
smells
what
like."
tobacco smells like.
Yeah, that's and the funny thing is like him and my a lot of people in my family smoke cigarettes. So I was like, well, that doesn't smell like tobacco, you know?
Yeah.
What I'm saying?
I mean, stay right there. Like I just became a dad.
Yeah.
And I'm now having to evaluate where I use cannabis, when I use cannabis, and what are the rules? What are the concerns around showing your child cannabis at a young age, right? When they're underage.
Of course.
So you're not the only one who was exposed to cannabis at a young age, but it's prevalent, right? And in my life as well as yours, and I can understand the concerns of keeping it away But I don't necessarily agree that like the side effects or the feeling is counterproductive to parenting.
Of course.
Although like there are safety concerns around using cannabis. I wanted to pull that out for a second because I'm dabbling in my own head around.
Yeah. And congrats on becoming a father, by the way. That's huge.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're pumped.
Yeah.
My mother didn't really drink. She didn't use substances at all. My father used quite a bit of alcohol, other stuff. And I think it has become so normalized, especially in the upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, to just be around your parents when they're drinking, right?
Right.
But when you throw cannabis into the mix, I think that there's still a massive stigma about that.
Yes, and I love calling out, as you said, massive stigmas because they creep into our lives in ways unknowingly at times. Like even someone like myself in the industry, I still have stigmas. I've been researching, I've been learning about this plant, professionally for 5 years, and yet I still catch myself, hey, I'm stigmatizing cannabis right now in a certain situation, right? So Wisconsin, known for its alcohol culture. Minnesota, I'm sure, is not that far behind.
Yeah.
I was just in Iowa recently, and a lot of alcohol, not a lot of cannabis. So you're absolutely right. And last night I was with some brewery owners, and that's one thing I always bring up to brewery owners is I'm so amazed at how family friendly the brewery, the third space, that brewery space has become. And yet they're there to serve the community beer, less alcoholic than spirits, and that's why we're seeing hemp-derived beverages in breweries, for example, and that's a win for cannabis in my eyes.
100%.
Right?
I mean, like Minnesota is revolutionizing the edible and the beverage industry, right? I've heard so many people come from other states saying like, there's so many selections. I didn't expect this when I came to Minnesota. I didn't even think you had dispensaries or anything like that.
The first time I went to Dabbler Depot, I walked into their Uptown location at the time and was greeted with like over 100 varieties of beverages. And that was summer of 2023.
Wow.
And so Dabbler Depot was very early to carrying a wide selection of beverages, and they still do, like here at the Seed and Sesh. But I think that's important. And I think, moving ahead, like when did you become more experienced with cannabis? So, you were exposed to it at a young age, whether you knew it or not. And as time went along, it seems like you found cannabis, at least in your early years.
Yeah. So I think probably like a lot of us here, like we were probably earlier adopters of YouTube. And so like, it's funny to kind of hear about like the YouTube wormhole and stuff now. It's like back then, I didn't remember that. I remember YouTube when it didn't even have ads. But I remember when I was about 15 years old, I was really thinking about religion and like my own thoughts on it. I'm an atheist now, and I became an atheist after watching a lot of YouTube videos online.
Sure.
I took a political spectrum test in civics in 9th grade.
Yeah.
Thought I was very conservative. Turns out I really wasn't.
Okay.
And started working on political campaigns with the DFL.
Cool.
So then with that and kind of being a teenager, I think I was probably about 15 years old when I used cannabis for the first time.
Sure.
And my massive stigma around it was the fact that I had seen alcoholism in my family, substance use, and so it was something that was kind of scary to me. And obviously like I don't encourage like underage use of substances, but that's when I tried it. Mm-hmm. So I remember my first experience was during a thunderstorm, which was like an ideal time for me, right? Moving forward, I think the stigma started to drain away after I started seeing a lot of YouTube videos about cannabis and cannabis activism.
Sure.
The other funny thing was, we're all old enough to remember when Netflix like wasn't a streaming service.
Yeah.
And so Netflix had just become a streaming service, and there were a lot of documentaries about weed on Netflix.
Sure.
This might take you back. You remember Super High Me?
Yes.
Okay. So I remember watching Super High Me with Doug Benson, and that kind of radicalized me. There was one documentary, and I don't remember if it was called Reefer Madness or if it was just talking about Reefer Madness, but like seeing seeing just the history, the Marijuana Tax Stamp Act, and how it was used to kind of enforce segregation or to target, people of color. That was something that like really hit core for me because I was just getting involved in politics. And so that fusion of cannabis and social justice was a big thing for me.
You were able to understand the lie back then.
Yeah, 100%.
The 1937 Marijuana Tax Act and the 1942, the kind of the last time that they grew hemp for the war. I love that you were able to see through the lie while you were attempting to kind of establish your political beliefs and understand. For me it was the Zeitgeist movie. The Zeitgeist movie that came out. I had just finished college when I watched that.
Yeah.
And it felt like everything that I had known up until like being 21, I was just completely flabbergasted, right? And so I love that at 15, and here you are, much older as a lawyer now, but like you were able to see through the lie and allow your beliefs to be stronger than what you were just given as a textbook.
In our small town, I think that first of all, I think one thing that isn't said is that if you go to a small town, it's actually really, really easy to see income disparity. The difference between, folks whose parents had like a really good job and those who are low income, it's drastic in a small town because there's so few people. And so I think, with the families that had been established in our small town, there was a massive stigma around cannabis. Whereas there were a lot of folks in my small town that I remember where it's like, okay, cannabis actually formed like a source of income for them, right? And we're talking about like legacy,
right? As a crop per se, or as a plant, growing it for commerce.
Exactly. And so like seeing that, I was always wondering like, why can't this just be like their business, right? Like, wouldn't it be cool if they could do this legitimately and where they didn't have to be in the shadows or under the thumb of law enforcement and being scared, like, making choices about like, can I continue doing this while also, owning a house or taking care of my kids or et cetera. And so now that we're in this time of legalization, I'm pumped and it's just been a long time coming. I mean, I was in 10th grade, I suppose, in 2010. And so then Colorado's legalization happened in 2012.
Yes.
And that was like a massive, because I just graduated high school and was going into college.
Okay.
And what I've seen now in Pine City is that there is an acceptance of cannabis. There are folks that were excited about Minnesota's ability to, Minnesota citizens' ability to grow their own cannabis and kind of foster that craft market. And now it's kind of becoming like a hobby for people that I suppose I really wouldn't have expected to have engaged in that hobby, right?
Yeah, we took Canna Connect on the road this year. We went up to Brainerd, we went to Garrison, and we were really well received in those small towns. And,
awesome.
I'm not surprised at all that, people are using cannabis and growing cannabis in every zip code, across Minnesota, whether they're more open about it or not. You mentioned college in 2012. How did you decide to go to Gustavus?
Sure. So I remember in 11th grade, I went. It was either 11th grade or senior year. I went to this thing called the Nobel Conference.
Okay.
It's a science conference that Gustavus puts on every single year, and I believe the one I went to was on neuroscience in the brain. And so I thought I was going to college to become a neurosurgeon.
Really?
And so my majors, and you're going to love this, I was going to major in biology and business.
Okay.
And I thought that was a very smart move because, what my plan was like, okay, well, legalization might happen. Like I'm going to have the experience to be able to either produce my own crop
or
whatever. And I was pretty young at the time too. Right.
Sure.
So as a freshman in college, I'm getting some of the biology. I decided not to do business.
Okay.
And actually halfway through college, I switched into a philosophy major.
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't really my way of thinking, I'm not very good with like technical measurements in the lab. It's like, you have to measure within 35 micrograms of something. And I'm just like, that's good enough.
For real.
But I'm much better at getting stoned and writing. And so that's what philosophy was for me. And honestly, that really helped me out when I became a lawyer.
Yeah. How much writing takes place as a lawyer?
Quite a bit of writing and quite a bit of reading. It really depends on what type of a lawyer you are, right? So there's kind of this dividing line between litigators, people who actually go into the courtroom, and that's kind of what I do, versus transactional lawyers who might make, mergers and acquisitions happen between businesses, things like that.
Okay.
Both involve writing, just different types of writing.
Sure.
So as a litigator, I'm writing motions. A motion is an ask to the court, for example, or memos that go along with that motion. I've written appellate briefs.
Yeah.
Jury instructions, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, back to.
I was looking at your background. You've been like working on becoming a lawyer since 2020.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And so, did the pandemic influence that decision, or were you already on your way to deciding to go to law school?
So I guess I'll tell you my origin story from
Please
becoming a lawyer. So, it's funny. Growing up, I had a lot of exposure to the criminal justice system.
Sure.
I remember the first time I ever had like an interaction with the cops. They had arrested my dad.
Okay.
And they had come in. I think it was Christmas Eve. I couldn't tell you the year, but I was really young. And my young mind, and I remember, I haven't seen the police report, but I remember them like having guns. And I remember my father always talking about his distrust of the police. And so growing up, I had a massive distrust of the police,
right?
Which was juxtaposed with my mother working in the prison system, which is a little strange.
Yeah.
And kind of the way that I tell it is like, I've seen a lot of men in my family have to deal with the criminal justice system.
Okay.
Whether they're going to jail, prison, just getting arrested, on probation.
Sure.
And so at some point, as I got older, I kind of thought like, there's a good possibility that I might end up going to jail or prison, become an inmate, right?
Right. What is that called? I mean, it's like, it's hereditary in a sense.
Yeah.
Right?
The breaking the cycle, so when I was 19 years old, I had been growing cannabis for just like way amateur, right?
Yeah. Outdoor?
Yes. At the time when I got caught, it was outdoor.
Okay.
I never had like the nice high pressure sodium lights or metal halide lights. I saw the Grower's Bible over there. When I was young, I think I was 18, I bought the Grower's Bible from Barnes & Noble.
Oh, cool.
And so I started learning about, kind of the biology behind it, which we were also learning in my biology classes at the time too. And so I was like, yeah, I can do this. I can pay for college, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I ended up starting a bunch of seedlings, and they were really, really young. Really dumb plan. We went out to an area of land that wasn't ours. I went out there and tried to cultivate the area, and I ended up getting caught bringing small seedlings out there. So I was
caught in the act.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I was pulled over. Got arrested. They found small seedlings. They found a scale and about 8 grams of weed.
Was it hemp?
It was hemp, yeah. And so I went to jail that day.
Okay.
And at the time I didn't know what the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony was. I knew felonies were not good.
Sure.
And so I get put into the back of the car. And I asked him, is this going to be a felony, right? And he goes, oh yeah, this is going to be a felony. So I was brought to jail for the first time, put into a holding cell, and then put in into a jail cell. Was released. I can't remember how many days after. I think it was on the weekend when I got caught.
Yeah. That means they'll keep you a little longer.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I didn't realize that. So that experience was not fun for me. And that kind of radicalized me when it came to the criminal justice system.
Sure.
I was hearing it from both angles, right? Because my father had been to prison in jail.
Yeah.
My mother was working in the criminal justice system. And so I was getting multiple different points of view of how the criminal justice system worked.
Right.
And, as a lefty,
yeah.
I was looking at it through that lens, and I continued to reevaluate it. But what I saw was a system that really, really, really doesn't work. And whether you're conservative or you're a leftist or a liberal or a centrist, whatever, you can make arguments for why the prison system doesn't work.
Yes.
I think the conservative argument is that we are wasting a ton of money on a criminal justice system that doesn't make people better. And maybe, folks don't see the prison system as rehabilitative. They just see it as retributive or punishment. But I don't think that does society any good.
I agree.
I think that putting someone in a cage, for 5-10 years, with other people who are in cages and some folks who need like extra help when it comes to like mental health, things like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them a better person. And then to expect them to act like a model citizen when they're coming out with a felony, they can't get a job or tough time getting a job, an apartment, anything like that.
And they've been removed from society to jump back onto the treadmill. Oftentimes you're going to fall.
Of course. And I think it's absurd that we put people in that position. And so I think that from a conservative angle, we are wasting a ton of money, right?
Yeah.
From my angle, I think it is disgusting how we treat people like that, regardless of whatever you have done.
Sure.
The reason why we have a justice system, a system of laws, is to prevent that retribution or that retributive impulse of individuals, right?
Okay.
Like if I did, this is from, I think, Oliver Wendell Holmes' The Common Law, the small portion of that book that I read. He was a former Supreme Court justice, and he talks about how, without a system of laws, if I steal something from you and we didn't have a system of laws or a court to deal with it, your only recourse is to come back at me with retribution, right?
Right.
So I think when it comes to dealing with crimes or just breaking the social contract by doing certain things,
yes,
we need to have a system that treats people fairly, humanely, and should be rehabilitating people to make them model citizens, or at least make them a contributing member of society.
Right. You want to leave the place better than how you found it.
Exactly. I ended up going through the criminal justice system there. I ended up getting a probation violation, so I went back to jail, which was not fun.
I see.
And so I ended up getting bailed out. I had a good attorney at the time,
right,
who got me a deal known as a stay of adjudication.
Okay.
I know you talked about this with Jen on a previous podcast.
We did,
there.
yeah.
So
would not have qualified for social equity.
And I found that out after it's the West King case, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I found out about that later on, obviously. But I get a stay of adjudication. I'm a freshman in college, and I'm on probation for 3 years, and I graduate from college. And then they take me off probation. I felt like they were just waiting for me to graduate from college. And like once I did that, I was like, all right, you're good.
Wow. So you spent college on probation.
I did. It was not fun.
We're going to be right back, and we're going to dig a little bit more into your story.
Sure.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
I'm Allie Mann, co-founder of Moonlight Cannabis, and this is our gummy, Space Cadet. This is far and away our best seller, most popular gummy.
This has live resin added to the THC. The live resin is flash frozen, and then they extract it once it's frozen. That helps maintain all the terpenes, cannabinoids. And so when you combine that with the THC, it gives a similar effect to smoking flower, I would say, in my opinion. It hits you a little bit quicker. It's got a quicker onset, and it's a little bit stronger. It's got a happy, floaty fun are the effects that it gives you. It's my personal favorite gummy.
I think Space Cadet is for everybody because this is the fun one. This is the one for girls' night. This is the one for a concert. This is the one for hanging out and just having a chitty chat with your friends, right? Like this one is good vibes. It's higher energy. You're gonna just feel happy, floaty fun. So it's just for anyone looking to really like kind of have a good time. And you can find Space Cadet at all Dabbler Depot THC locations.
Being on probation while in college, having the background that you had in high school, how did you navigate staying the course as you were a Gusty? So
it was difficult, right? I was really, really focused on not getting kicked out of school. I was, dead set on becoming the first person in my core family there to graduate from college, and I really, really didn't want to disappoint people. With that probation, there came some like conditions. I had to go to outpatient treatment.
So you did.
I remember going to an outpatient treatment in group, and at the time, I was not super receptive to that.
Yeah.
There were some things that I didn't agree with. I remember we watched the movie The Secret, if you've ever heard of that.
I've heard of it in the recovery community.
Yeah, so we watched it was about like manifesting your future, right? And I just did not buy that at all. And I was like, why are we watching this? This is like indoctrination.
Right.
I think that we should be focusing more on like, group activity, like what drives us to use substances. Right.
Yeah.
And also at the time I was in there for cannabis, and I just like felt like I was the odd person out who like didn't like, need to be there.
Yes.
Little did I know, like later on, I would quit drinking because that became an issue for me.
Sure.
And alcohol had been an issue, but it was, I got pulled out of group. I was put in and doing individual therapy.
Okay.
With shout out to Bob.
Yeah.
That was extremely valuable for me.
Great.
Because Bob had been through some things in his life. I was able to tell him on kind of like a peer-to-peer basis about just like why I was suffering from mental health issues, the stress of being on probation, and things like that.
Yeah.
And he was extremely receptive.
Yeah.
I finished with outpatient treatment. During this whole time, I was under the possibility of being randomly tested, right? And so that was always a fear for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was really, really, really just not wanting to do that. So it was honestly a constant stress.
Yeah.
I was always nervous about being around police officers. I was always nervous that I was going to mess up probation. And so like, honestly, I just kind of like white knuckled it through to like make sure I would not screw that up.
There aren't a lot of kids, I would imagine, especially at Gustavus, that were going through that same set of precautions and rules that you had to follow. Where was your outpatient clinic? Where would you have to travel to from St. Peter?
This was just down in Mankato, so it wasn't too far away.
But still, like you're having to go to Mankato. You're being removed from the college environment. You're not even fully believing that you're an addict or that cannabis requires this type of treatment. Granted, you may have still been using alcohol at the time.
Yeah.
It does sound like you found the silver lining in working with Bob, and that informed how you proceeded to become an adult at time, over time. I think that's important, and you made the most of it, it seems like.
100%. Coming into Gustavus, it was funny. So I've always been involved. I've been involved with the DFL party since I was 15. When I was a freshman in college, I missed orientation because I was a national delegate for Obama to the 2012 National Convention in Charlotte.
Cool.
And then in 2016, actually, before my senior year, I was a national delegate for Bernie Sanders.
Oh, you were?
I became a meme at that convention that was like passed around. And so like that was interesting. And I think like, on a personal note with the probation stuff,
yeah,
I kind of almost use that as street cred with people at Gustavus because
sure.
It was much less working class like Pine City was, and there were a lot of kids that had come from families where there was access to money or they had both parents. And so I thought it was fun to like, I'm doing well in school, but also I have like this like bad side, or like dark side, and I tried to use that as street cred. I'm not sure if that worked out positively for me in the end because like word gets around pretty quickly.
Sure.
But look at where I am now. Okay,
I mean, I think you're pretty accomplished. I have a lot of respect for you, Sean.
Oh, thanks,
and
man.
even learning more just in this short interview so far, it helps pull back the curtain, and that's why we do these interviews. We really want people in the community to be able to learn about each other and be able to resonate. I hope folks who are listening to this are reach out to you, find you on LinkedIn, connect with you, tell Sean, hey, I found your story really interesting, and I'm interested in learning more about North Star Law Group.
Yeah, 100%. So I think I weaved a tangent. I'll come back to why I became a lawyer then.
Okay.
So my junior year in college, I started thinking about going to law school, right?
Sure.
So I'm like, what do I have to do? I have to take the LSAT. I have to write a personal statement, and I have to get good grades. I did relatively well at Gustavus, but not as well as I wanted to.
Yeah.
And a lot of that had to deal with like mental health, focusing on things like extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
I should have been focusing on school more. I
hear
wasn't
that.
in choir my entire duration in Gustavus and sang in the Gustavus choir.
You did.
But I ended up not taking the LSAT. I finished my senior year and was like, what am I going to do? Or I was about to finish.
Yep.
I get hit up by someone who was very integral for me in politics growing up. And they said, hey, Rick Nolan, who's a congressman up north, he just passed, rest in peace.
Oh, yeah.
Also one of my heroes. He always will be. A true blue populist Democrat.
Nice.
And in the vein of FDR, Robert La Follette, things like that.
Yep.
The farmer labor wing of the DFL, right?
Okay.
But I got hit up to become a field organizer.
Sure.
So I'm working as a field organizer in Cambridge, Minnesota.
Okay.
And that's kind of the part of the 8th Congressional District. It's like the Arrowhead out to Brainerd and then down to Wyoming, Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's a little more conservative.
Definitely out there.
But Rick was so authentic that he could speak to you even if you were a Tea Party Republican, right?
Sure.
And this is in 2016.
Which that was right around the time of the or your post high school experience. You saw the rise of the Tea Party movement.
Oh yeah. In 10th grade, the Tea Party started moving in, and then Obama wins in 2012, big convention. 2014 is kind of a resurgence of the Tea Party.
Yes.
And then we have 2016 with Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Rick Nolan ended up winning that election by, I think, like 0.2 or 0.4%.
Wow.
And he outperformed Hillary, I think, by 16%. And he ended up winning.
Good.
So I'm working on more campaigns as I'm going along.
Mm-hmm.
Made a lot of really good friends. I've people that I consider my family in the DFL party.
Wow.
But I knew that I wanted to become a lawyer. And at the time when
but I like that track where you're not necessarily diminishing what's out there. You're putting your time into passion. You're putting your time into things that you believe in, knowing that your career is still coming.
100%. Yeah. And that's what I was hoping for, right? The biggest thing for me was studying for the LSAT. I just didn't have the willpower or the drive to do that. I had taken formal logic a semester, and then I had taken advanced logic. Luckily, I had friends that were really good at logic, so like they really tutored me in that. So I knew about like if-then statements, Boolean logic, things like that. But I really didn't want to take the LSAT.
Okay.
So I take the LSAT in, I think it was February of 2020. And I did not do great. I did pretty terribly.
Okay.
And it's because I just didn't study for it very well.
Sure.
So I get another try in May. And if you remember in March of 2020, that's when COVID hits.
I do.
So I'm like, what is going to go on here? They end up allowing us to take it from home, which was nice. I mean, the first time I took it, I had to drive up to Duluth to UMD.
Sure.
And so I took it from home. I ended up getting a pretty solid score, at least like I thought it was solid.
Nice.
Get into Mitchell Hamlin, and they give me a pretty sweet scholarship.
Okay.
So I start in the fall of 2020, and we are all online. Honestly,
Yes.
I was just thankful to be in law school.
Yeah.
Didn't care that we weren't in person, didn't care about anything, and like we made it work.
Did you live in Pine River?
No, so I was living
Pine City, excuse me.
Yeah, no worries. I was in the cities at this time.
Okay.
So I was taking classes from home. I ended up getting COVID in the fall. Luckily not during finals, but like it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Ouch.
And I remember when it happened, like I came home, I was like, I got home, I was like, I feel like I'm going to die. And then I ended up having night terrors that night and like sweating, like it was like a bad acid trip almost.
Yeah.
And so COVID really did have an effect on law school. And there were a lot of folks in my class that like really, really didn't like being online and wanted to be in person.
Yeah.
Frankly, as we kept doing online classes into the spring semester, I did want to start meeting a lot of my friends, my classmates face to face.
Right.
And then the fall of my second year in law school is when we started coming back into class. Okay. Which was nice because like I was like, finally, I'm on campus. Like I feel like I'm in law school now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite a transition. I was in the part-time program at Mitchell Hamlin, which I would totally recommend if you want to work full-time or part-time, go to school part-time, you can 100% do it.
Yes.
And also as a word of encouragement to like folks who might not think that they can like become a lawyer, right? Yeah. You can 100% do that. We need more people in the legal field that have had backgrounds where maybe they've been to jail, maybe they know their parents were in prison. We need a lot more people with that perspective.
I love that.
So that was kind of my main drive, coming into it. I really, really tried to put my nose to the grindstone, but it's a different type of studying in law school.
Okay.
You have to be very diligent, and you have to weed out what you are going to study and what is going to have to fall by the wayside, especially as a part-time student, right?
Okay.
Because you're going to be going to work in the afternoon, and then you're going to have class in the evening, maybe starting at 6,
right,
maybe starting at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And so finding the time to be able to study, to be able to do the readings, and to
put the time in.
Oh yeah. And like know what you're reading too and how to study. That's something that you really have to develop in your first year of law school. And it took a little bit of time for me to be able to do that.
It's discernment.
Right? Of course.
So
of course.
You're staring out at all this knowledge that you could acquire, needing to realize what you need to require given your constraints in your daily life.
Definitely. And some classes are taught in the traditional case law way too. So they don't just like hand you the answer of like, this is what the rule against perpetuities is. They'll give you a case and then you have to derive the rule from that case itself.
Okay.
That was kind of frustrating for me because like, I'm the type of person that likes to read a summary of like a book beforehand. So then I know what to look for in the book afterwards.
Yes, I prefer that.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Right.
And I had to really, really get used to that, get used to like reading the Uniform Commercial Code, which again, I was like always interested in criminal law. I knew I wanted to be a criminal lawyer going into law school.
Sure.
I had people, telling me like, why did you think about like maybe other types of law, be open? And I was like, yeah, I 100% will. But there was a reason why I went to law school.
Yes.
And it was because the criminal justice system personally affected me
yes,
and my family. And I saw that as an injustice, not only to our country, but to humanity in the way that we were actually treating individuals.
Okay.
And the fact that it's just not working.
Yes. Yes.
So, I trying to adapt to that type of learning was a little difficult and challenging, but I came around to it. Your first year in law school, a lot of people say this is going to be your toughest.
Okay.
Because you're learning, you're trying to figure out how to study. You're being introduced to all of like the core topics of the law that I think the ABA requires you to learn. So we're talking criminal law, contracts, torts, which are like battery, assault, but on like a civil level, right?
Right.
Constitutional law, and figuring out, how do I put all these pieces together to understand what the law is?
Okay.
I promise you, if you are diligent and in law school, you will figure it out. It just sometimes people have to put in a little bit more work than others. And I remember my second semester in law school with one specific class, like sometimes I was getting sleep 4 hours a night, 3 hours a night, going to work the next day.
Wow.
I did end up becoming better at studying after that, but
Sure.
The way that I structured my law school schedule was I wanted it there are like 7 or 8 classes that you have to take. I think the ABA requires you to take.
Sure.
But then I wanted to take all the bar classes I could for topics that were on the bar, because it was like, if I'm going to be tested on this, I should probably take a class.
Study it.
And then the one thing I really, really wanted to focus on in law school was advocacy, because my goal was to become a trial lawyer.
Yes.
The Perry Masons on TV or the Law and Order, like that's the stuff that like people think about when they think about lawyers, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I thought about too. Clearly I like to talk, right? And so like if you like to talk, being a trial lawyer is like the best, because
Absolutely.
the jury has to listen to you, right?
Yeah.
Like they can't get up and walk away.
No.
The judge can tell you to shut up, and like the opposing counsel like can object to you, but like I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I took a ton of advocacy classes at Mitchell.
Okay.
And like I really liked Mitchell Hamlin's advocacy program. I learned quite a bit. I was on the mock trial team there.
Sure.
And that was a ton of fun and served me really, really well.
Yeah.
Coming out of law school and having that experience.
I tend to have this viewpoint where if you take time in between high school and college, or college and an advanced degree like a law degree, and you put your time into passion in the meantime, you end up coming into whatever's next more focused, more diligent, more decisive on why you're there in the first place. And you're not just moving from school to job to what do I do next? Or, hey, I wake up and I'm 35 years old. Like, have I done anything with my life? So
I wholeheartedy endorse that. Like if I would have tried to go to law school like right after college, I don't think it would have went very well for me, to be honest with you. I kind of had a little bit of growing up to do.
Sure. Likewise.
I'm still growing up a little bit, to be honest with you, but I am glad that there were some gaps in time, or there was a gap in time
Yes.
where I was able to go out into the workforce. And so actually as a part-time student, I'm pretty sure almost all of the students in my cohort, section of 20, 25 people had been out for at least like a year or something like that.
Oh, that's cool. So it makes sense that you got along with them when you were able to get in person and really enjoy their kinship.
Yeah, definitely. And the other cool thing about Mitchell was that like a lot of people were non-traditional students. There were folks that had been on their second or third career who might have been like 50, 60, 70 years old and going to law school. And that was really inspiring. Because I think everybody has this idea of there's like the movie The Paper Chase or other legal shows on TV. I think I can't remember the name of it, but there's one about like students in law school.
Sure.
They think about like the traditional, like, okay, I just graduated from college, right? Now I'm going to law school. And they think of like Ivy League institutions or things like that.
Right.
Mitchell has been so good since the time of like when Warren Berger went there. I think it was called St. Paul St. Paul Law School or St. Paul College back then. It has always been a working person's law school, and they have always made it accessible to people who like need to work a job or who are taking care of kids.
Yeah.
And I think that students like that give a valuable perspective to the law too.
Real life.
Of course. They have learned how to deal with managers above them or work with others in a collaborative sense.
Mm-hmm.
If they have kids, and maybe they're a prosecutor, they understand, like the defendants also have kids, right? Like,
Sure.
they can see people as individuals. And that's not to say that, like folks coming directly out of college aren't fantastic. I've seen a lot of people that are really smart coming directly out of college.
Yeah.
But for me personally, that was a great experience. And it was nice to be able to like pursue my passion in politics and now pursue what I really, really, really wanted to do, which is help folks. Whether that be, prevented from going to jail or prison or maybe helping them with their business if, they're a subcontractor or general contractor that has a civil dispute. And now hopefully moving forward, with like cannabis businesses,
right.
Working with cannabis businesses, whether that's, dealing with cities and zoning or civil disputes between different parties. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot to unpack in that space as we move forward with a recreational industry.
100%.
We saw it with the ice cream case on Judge Judy this year, but there's going to be a lot more, unfortunately, civil disputes between business owners, and that's why it's really important to get things written down and have things on paper. I know Jen preaches that often. Hey, even if it's just on the back of a napkin, that's a starting point. That's a reference that we can go back to. And yeah, so much I have seen where we have passion and we don't have paperwork, and guilty, as charged. But, we have to continue to preach paperwork before partnership as a way to safeguard ourselves against the unfortunate reality that not all business works out.
100%. It has been really cool to see what Jen and the rest of the team at North Star with the cannabis department specifically, working in a space where like everything is like in flux constantly, right?
Yeah.
We just had the legislation. We're now, seeing a lot of different moving parts move all at once, and seeing Jen and the team try to move things forward.
Yeah.
Maybe when you do hit those roadblocks has been really cool, because I've traditionally with like the legal realm, I've always been in the criminal defense realm. I worked in family law for a little bit.
Okay.
And so it's a new taste of a new type of law that I'm pretty excited to be starting with here now.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of terpenes would you associate with it?
Is limonene a terpene?
Yeah, limonene is a terpene. That works.
That was the first one that came to head there.
So, I love everything you've shared so far, but wrapping up, what is a day in the life now like for Sean Paul Kehren?
Yeah, so I'm constantly trying to think about my clients. I think that one thing that folks are thinking about now in the legal community is how do you keep a work-life balance, or how do you take care of yourself and your own well-being while also focusing on your clients? And I think that this is especially true when you're talking about criminal lawyers, right? Because whether it's a traffic ticket or whether it's a homicide, you've got someone's life in your hands when it comes to criminal law, right?
Right.
And so I've been trying to I just got sworn in May.
Yes.
So I've been kind of trying to figure out, like, how can I find that separation between the office itself and the time outside of the office. Still working on that.
Yeah.
But you know,
but that's okay, right? I mean, if you're your first year of being an investment banker, you're struggling to understand the work-life balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's in a high-pressure career like a criminal defense attorney, that is completely normal, and you've just got to work to develop healthy habits, healthy stress relievers. You know, not prescribing, but like, you need to spend time thinking about what works for you, and understand in Minnesota that there's seasons, and, you know, in the summertime you might be able to use this as a stress reliever. In the wintertime you may have to go indoors or whatever it might be. But I just want to support you in that, because it is natural to be feeling that.
I appreciate it. You know, I started exercising pretty regularly since last year. One of the things I really, really appreciate at North Star, with our president, Courtney, with the other partners, Jen Randolph-Riza, James Gempler, and Dan Adkins, who are on the criminal defense team, is that they really focus on creating that work-life balance. They really focus on their employees specifically, and trying to create an environment that isn't like a stuffy law firm that you would think about on Suits, right?
Right.
I truly do feel like the folks at North Star are like family members, good friends, and I could go to my boss and talk about you know, things that I'm thinking about outside of work, and finding support there.
They hold space for you to be a real person.
100%. That is a great way of putting it.
Makes sense. I noticed that with just my interactions with Jen, right?
Yeah.
We can have our legal conversations, and then we can have our friend and just understanding how your life is going kind of a conversation.
Yeah. You had asked about a typical day in the life. You know, sometimes I might have a hearing right away in the morning.
Okay.
Where I'm not even going to the office. I'm going directly to the courthouse. I'm meeting with the client there, and you know, we're going to do a hearing, whether that be an HRO or a motion to dismiss a criminal case, or a lot of motion hearings in the civil context are via Zoom. Which is something, it's a remnant of COVID, like a vestigial trait of COVID that actually was helpful for the court system.
Yes.
You know, other times I am writing some type of legal brief that we're going to be submitting in court. You know, sometimes I'm making calls to clients that are calling in about, you know, whether that be an expungement or trying to get their gun rights back through a gun rights restoration petition.
Interesting.
I was fortunate enough to help successfully get a pardon for someone earlier this year.
Oh, wow.
And that was like 2 weeks after I had become like an attorney. So like, that was so cool and such a cool experience.
No kidding.
And what I'm finding at North Star is that there's always encouragement to pursue your passion, and to push yourself moving forward as an attorney. I think that it's important to push yourself outside of your comfort spaces, because that's the only way that we can grow.
Yeah.
And so I found North Star to be a really comfortable environment to push myself into uncomfortable spaces, right? Because like, you have to be safe while you're also doing that pushing.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah, I mean, it has been a blast. I'm sure that my days will change as, you know, I end up getting different types of cases moving forward. But
right.
The experience has been kick-ass. I will say that.
I'm glad you're there.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And if folks want to get in a hold of you or in touch with you, either through North Star or personally, what's the best way for people to contact you?
You know, honestly, my email is available on the North Star website. So it's just Sean@northstarlaw.com. You can give me a call. I think my number is also on that website. I'm available on LinkedIn. Kind of keep my social media outside of that, to myself.
Yeah.
I don't have like a Sean Kehren lawyer page or anything like that.
Right.
But
reach out on LinkedIn if you want to get in touch with Sean. Sean, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks for being here, and thanks for sharing your story.
100%. Thanks, Steven, man. This is awesome.
We'll be right back.
Ready to kick off your home grow? We've got the perfect hookup for you. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. They've got everything from fast flowering strains to unique hybrids, all ready for growing in Minnesota. And guess what? Our listeners get an exclusive deal. Use the code NL10 for a 10% discount on your entire order. Don't miss out and get started with the best seeds. Start your growth strong with MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Remember, NL10 for 10% off at MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Grab your seeds today. And we're back. Welcome to another segment of Tanner's Chirp Tasting. Today with Kale. Welcome back.
What's up? We're back.
Happy to be here at the Dabbler Depot. We've got some chirps that we've got in-house that we got to do some testing of today.
Perfect.
So we're back for another chirp tasting. So we've got today a Big Cat hash jar of some strawberry pie.
Okay.
I'm so excited to dig into this one. I actually haven't sampled this one at all yet. I opened the jar, gave it a smell, and went, oh, we're gonna save that one for the show. So let's give a little bit of preview of what this jar looks like. Pretty straightforward pop vac jar. Have you seen those pop vac jars before? Yeah, I like them. They trap in a lot of those terpenes, trap in a lot of that scent, flavor, all that good stuff people like.
Good stuff.
And we're gonna go ahead and bust this open. Now let's first start by commenting a little bit on the packaging. Now it's a pretty simple package compared to some of the ones that we've seen in the past that have like the full jar wrap. This is just the sticker on top, the sticker on bottom.
I honestly like it. Like the packaging itself feels heavy as I drop it. I also like enjoy how they threw just like a black cat. They didn't really like give it much form. They're just like, here's the silhouette of a black cat with some eyes. Yep. And I think that's really fun.
Yeah, it is as straightforward as you can get. You got a little cat surfing on a wave, perhaps hinting towards that washing of the heads that helps get us our cool solventless hash here. Now this is strawberry pie. That's what we're going to be opening in just a second here. Let's give for the genetics nerds, that's a cross between Georgia pie and strawberry fritter. Okay. So you get a little bit of that Georgia pie nuttiness, the sweetness, with that strawberry punch. And I think this jar for sure reflects that. So I'll let you go ahead and give that an open and let us know what are some of your initial smells you get off that. What do you think of that flavor?
Have you had any Big Cat hash before?
This is my first jar from them, so I'm really excited to give this a try.
So yeah, you're getting strawberry right off the bat. I don't get any of the nuttiness that you were referencing, but here.
Yeah, I'm excited to see sort of how it comes across in this one. Yeah, I just love it. It's almost like a light strawberry, like I point to like those strawberry candies that you get that's like almost a little bit creamy. Yep. Where it's like that hint of strawberry flavor comes across in that nose right away. Yep. I'm excited to scoop some of this up and give it a try here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to be using our Puffco here today. Once again, a Plead Puffco. Please sponsor the show. But until then, we're just going to grab a dab of this and drop it into our Peak Pro here. Oh, I love the texture on this. In fact, I'm going to show you this because you can see it like holds this shape. It has a nice little give, but that's still super terpy. Let's see. We'll hold up the dab for the camera, show it off there. Yeah, I'm really excited to give this a flavor test. Kale, what are your thoughts on strawberry chirps generally? Is that something that you enjoy?
I would say like I don't necessarily like seek out fruity terps just because they generally will fall in your lap. But when it comes to rosin, I'm kind of open to whatever just because I don't have a big history when it comes to concentrates. Just because they haven't really been widely available, and also like the quality of them, just based on my like traditional means of access, historically hasn't been great. But in the last I'd say the last year, we've definitely been getting a lot more hash, and there's a lot of funk and garlic that comes across my plate, which has been fun to try too. So,
could not agree more. Wow. All right. So it's actually a really different flavor than you get off the nose from it. I got so much of that strawberry from that initial flavor. That was sort of like you were mentioning, that only scent that came across. I don't really get as much of that in the taste. It comes across much more of that like piney, nutty almost.
Yep, piney, nutty,
doughy, if you will.
You get a little bit more of the. You do get a little bit of strawberry, but like not nearly as much.
Not as much as I was expecting based on just the smell. Wow. That's a good one. Well, let's go ahead and do the Q-tip test here. As we're getting our Q-tip out, getting that scrubbed up, we got a question on the YouTube page where people were asking us, what do those numbers, what do those micron mean? Well, Kayla, I'm sure you know, but for the viewers at home who might not know that, what that is describing is the bag size, the size of micron that was used to collect those heads. When things are being washed solventlessly, it's being flown through water, and the size of that bag is really what's collecting what heads are getting kept behind and what's getting washed away. So by having that range of 70 to 149, like on this jar, that is the size of the actual bits of
the heads of the trichomes that are being washed off. And so something I'm curious about, and maybe you might know, is it going to depend on genetic, what type of micron size you're using, just based on the development of those trichome heads?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many different things that can go into it. Genetics is a huge one. The quality of the grow is another big one. And one that Casey from Trichome Collector taught me is that even outdoor versus indoor, outdoor plants just generally have much larger heads than plants grown indoors. They just have more energy, more sun. The power of the outdoor sun. So, it all depends on how it was grown and what was grown. That's sort of where the art of it comes in, where there's not a wrong answer. It's just what do people prefer?
Yeah, that's super cool.
And speaking of that, we got our Q-tip test here. Man, that's pretty clean. Now, we do dab these a little bit on the higher of temp side, but that's a really great amount. There's no burnt material. That's just sort of some leftover oil that didn't get dabbed up in that first go. But pretty good. Pretty good. Wow.
It's kick ass.
Yeah.
We'll have to bring in your pivot at some point. Do you have the attachment to put it onto a glass piece?
I do, yeah.
We'll have to do that for another terp tasting. Maybe not the next one, but another one, because we got left some house glass.
Okay.
So maybe we can bring some of the house glass out, and it's not super fancy, but it'd be fun to just show that and see if you get a different flavor out of the pivot.
Yeah.
Out of a actual piece.
That would be awesome. The pivot has really exposed me to dry hits. That's something with the Puffco. I'm not as big of a fan of that. I feel like on the pivot, though, it's a little bit more manageable, and I 100% agree. You get so many different flavors.
I'd say
based upon how you're dabbing it.
I'd say me picking up a Zenko, which arguably I should have probably picked up a Puffco if I wanted to be doing anything with concentrates, but it's been fun because everything's dry for me. It's coming out of the glass. I think you're gonna lose a little bit more just because the chamber isn't quite as big or as robust as that is. But I guess that means I've been doing dry rips for a little bit here.
There you go. You've been getting trained and ready for it. We'll have to bring that in for a future terp tasting. Give that a go.
Fun.
Show off how it works. All right, okay. Well, so now comes sort of the hardest part about this, where we can't just say that was good.
Yeah.
We got to say how good. We've got our patent pending token system that we use to help us rate things anywhere from 0 to 10. I haven't dabbed a 0 yet, but sure excited to dab a 10. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Where on that scale would you put our Big Cat Hash strawberry pie?
I would say the flavor profile was unique. The nose on it was really cool. I would say I would put this at a solid 6.5.
Okay, for sure. Yeah. I think that's super fair. I think I actually have to agree with you spot on. So let's go with the Big Cat Hash Strawberry Pie. We're going to be rating that a 6.5 on the token scale. So yeah, pretty good one. I'd recommend people give it a go if you have the opportunity to grab this jar.
Yes.
Something to give a try.
I'd say effect-wise, I would say the one I did prior, the very first one that we did, what was the flavor? Do we remember?
So that first dab that we did was actually from an unreleased Tanner's Trip Tasting that I don't think made the cut.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay.
Or actually,
No.
was it the first one we did?
Yeah, it was the first one.
So then that would have been Ope solventless.
Yes.
And it was their strawberry cotton candy. So let's go back in the yeah, so that last time we sampled the Ope solventless strawberry cotton candy.
Yeah, the strawberry cotton candy. I would say that one definitely ranks better. I think it was a little bit more up my alley, but I still think this was phenomenal.
Yeah, I think that had much more of that like sweet strawberry flavor that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good one. So, well, Kale, thanks for doing a dab with me. Thanks for joining for another segment of Tanner's Chirp Tasting. We'll be back to Northern Lights in just a moment here. And we're back. Well, friends, that was an episode.
Hell yeah.
A lot of news that we covered, a lot of things still that we don't know that are going to happen in the next couple of days. What do you guys feel like we do a high note to round it out?
Yeah. You know, sometimes I get high and I think about CBD and CBG.
Okay. All right.
And,
Tell me more.
Well, last night I took 2 gummies, like 300 milligrams total. And I just got to say, like, CBD and CBG are really good at high doses for sexual performance and sexual well-being. Like, it helps regulate your body.
Okay. All right.
And I think that people need to look at CBD and CBG for nighttime and for sleep and for overall well-being as an adult. And I think people need to look for more than just 5 milligrams of THC.
Because you've been doing those 10 milligram rectal. No, I'm just kidding. No. Yeah, no, I don't at all disagree with you. I think those minor cannabinoids have such a role in our lives outside of the, well, are you feeling anxious? Have some CBD.
Yeah. And I just don't want it to get lost in this shuffle that we're in and this relates back to the OCM, how they've capped CBG at 25 milligrams, for example. And so the gummies that I'm using have 75 milligrams of CBD, 75 of CBG. Yes, CBG is an uplifting cannabinoid, but it doesn't prevent you from sleeping. It doesn't redline you or keep you up. And so I was high in the shower today and I was getting ready for the podcast and I was like, I'm going to talk about CBD and CBG for like overall adult wellness.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think that's so spot on where like cannabis has a role in our lives way beyond what people have long just used it for.
Stigmatize it as.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're someone out there who's using CBD or CBG or CBN, like we want to hear more from these folks. Like we know the home grow community is out there, but like tell us about how you're using CBD for your mental health and mental well-being.
Now I want us to put out a new recipe for like, you know, we've taught people how to make CBD lotions and topicals.
Oh yeah.
Homemade CBD lubricant.
Yeah. Wow. I'll talk to Dr. Ashok. Tanner, what's your high note?
My high note is such a different, it's going to feel like such a left turn.
Let's go to Jordan.
No.
Okay.
I think it's an okay left turn.
Everybody, we're turning.
So I like musicals. Do you guys like musicals? Yeah, they're fine.
Yes. No, musicals are great.
Yeah, they're cool. So I just wanted to use my high note from this week to give a shout out to the students of White Bear Lake High School. Hopefully they're not listening to this podcast right now.
Okay.
But I got to see Legally Blonde, their musical, at White Bear Lake High School just last night as of recording this.
Thursday night, was it the debut of show?
No, so it's been going on for about a week now. They've got 2 more shows. Unfortunately, it'll be over by the time people hear this. But it's the first year that White Bear Lake has sold out every single performance of their high school play.
Amazing.
Musical.
Wow. A thriving community out in White Bear Lake.
Yeah. And it got me thinking, do we need a cannabis musical?
Yes, we do.
Woo. All right. Now, you guys might know there actually is one, Reefer Madness, the musical. It was really, really good. People should go check out the movie.
Colin Kelly, executive produced, was one of the producers of that musical.
Was he really?
Yeah.
All right. I'm learning this live on it. That's crazy. Okay.
We should have him back on the show.
I would love to have him back on the show and hear a little bit more about that. Because my question for the audience generally is, what musicals do you like to listen to when you're stoned? Now, I love live musicals. Of course, going in person is really cool. But I also just love a really good soundtrack. And I've been bumping some Book of Mormon recently, some Avenue Q, and now also Legally Blonde. So what should I add to that playlist? Drop it in the comments, send me a DM, whatever you want to do. I'm just looking for new music, so
Amazing.
give me a feed. Drop a line.
He'll put it in his 6-disc CD changer in the back of his trunk.
It's true. And then I'll flip open my book and I'll flip No, I got a new car and it doesn't have a CD player anymore. Okay, it's
That's
okay.
good. That's good.
All right, Jordan, tell me a little bit more. What is your high note from this week?
Well, I want to kind of answer your question.
Okay. Oh, I would
'Cause
love that.
It's not necessarily a musical because it started as a movie and then was,
That's okay.
transposed into a musical, and that's
So was Legally Blonde.
That's true. And it is the only Broadway caliber show I've ever seen live, and it's Beetlejuice.
Oh, okay.
My wife and I saw it last winter, and it was like, we put it as like a top 3 life experience. Like, it was just such an incredible experience, and I'm like, dude, this soundtrack, all these songs would just be like, it's, who's the crazy wacky guy that does all of Tim Burton's musical scores? His name's escaping me, but like
Zac Efron.
that's the one.
Zac Efron and Sabrina Carpenter.
I think I would give the Beetlejuice track.
I like that.
Some of the tracks I'll go.
I'll give that a listen. Yeah. I'll totally check it out.
My high thought is in the same, definitely closer to Tanner's vein of high thought today versus Steve's, but it is what is everybody's movie that no matter how many times you see it, you will always enjoy it, especially if you're having just smokes. But it's a movie, whether you glean something different or you relate to a character's perspective differently than you did last time, and you can just watch it over and over and over again until the end of time.
I'll give you 2.
Yeah.
Because they're similar in how they're shot. My comedy would be Rat Race.
Yeah.
And my drama would be Crash.
Oh, okay.
I love movies that are told from like multiple people's perspectives.
Yeah, and intertwine, and like they bleed into each other's lives whether they know it or don't, and like one little butterfly effect from one character affects something. Yeah, I could see both of those. Yeah, Tanner, what are you thinking? Do you have a all time?
I'm sort of struggling to like come up with that movie that I would watch on repeat.
But
maybe not on repeat, but like
Yeah.
one movie you never get sick of. Like, I know mine. I'll give my example is Lord of the Rings: Two Towers.
Ooh.
Like, that movie I think is just perfect, and I learn something new about myself every single time I watch it. And I'm also just obsessed with the filmmaking element of it.
Sure, those were epic movies.
Yeah, and like 20 some odd years later, they hold up so well. And I think, it's not a novel.
Do the
answer.
DVDs still hold up, or are you streaming them?
I have I've had the DVD since they came out, but now I have no way of playing DVDs in my home. So I guess I'm a product of my environment.
Oh no.
Just remember that was like peak DVD era.
Dude, you got the box with the map and the extended edition, the behind the scenes and like how it's made, like
Peter,
that stuff. I found that honestly more fascinating than the movies a lot of times. Being like that's probably what woke up this stuff in me, or activated it, because I was always playing with cameras and stuff as a kid, but then when I saw adults playing with cameras as a kid, I was like, okay, I think I know what my personality is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm interested because you watch a lot of movies, right? With you and your wife.
Yeah. Well, and that's I'm gonna let people down with this one. It's so just like where my head has been at recently. But like any of those Disney movie musicals, Encanto, I've talked about Frozen way too much on here. Way too much. Soul is not like a musical per se, but it's one of those movies that I can watch 4 or 5 times and every time get a different perspective, a different angle from it.
I love Soul so much. I think that's a brilliant movie.
Yeah. I love you guys.
I love you guys.
But we got to wrap up.
You guys are okay.
I'm thankful for you guys.
Yeah, I'm thankful for you guys too. Heading into this holiday season, we should just take a minute to say we're thankful for all of you guys. Whether you are a celebrator of Thanksgiving or not, we're just excited to have you on board on this ship that we call Northern Lights. And we've been excited to be able to share Minnesota cannabis with you over the past now more than a year. We're really looking forward to the next year of our industry. None of us know what that's going to look like, but we know that we're going to be here talking about it, having guests come on in and share their story. And we're just really excited to be able to share all of that with you. So happy Thanksgiving if you're celebrating that with your family, if you're just taking some time to relax and respite, enjoy, and
happy 75th episode now. Congrats.
Wow, that's insane.
Are we doing anything to celebrate our...
Once we hit 10,000 downloads, we can throw a party.
All right. Oh, wait. If we were to throw a party, though, when do you think...
Yeah, when should we throw our holiday party? Let me pull up that sheet of paper here.
Yeah, let's let Tanner wrap with the holiday party.
Absolutely. Friends, we hope to see you, not for our Thanksgiving party, but for our holiday party that we are throwing on December 20th, 2024 from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Dabbler Depot Season Sesh, 951 Payne Avenue. We are doing a raffle. You can win one of these incredible Storks and Bickle devices. Come here empty-handed and leave with a Storks and Bickle device. Now you can buy your lottery ticket. I've been Freudian slip there. A lot of talking about lottery recently. You can buy your raffle ticket by coming in to the Seed and Sesh location, 951 Payne Avenue, or the Dabbler Depot location on 28th. We've got our Minneapolis location, our St. Paul location. Come and get a raffle ticket. Walk home with one of these incredible Storks and Bickle devices and come celebrate the holiday.
Yeah, raffle tickets are $15. You can buy a 5-pack for $50. All of these devices are over $285. Some are up to $500. So, support the Minnesota Cannabis College, support the Northern Lights podcast, support Dabbler Depot. Head out to these shops, ask for the raffle tickets, buy some drinks, get some seeds. Whatever you need, the Seed and Sesh has got it.
Absolutely. Now I have a question for you. One note on here that I saw that says dress code festive. Can I wear my carrot costume?
You may not wear your carrot costume. That's only Halloween.
All right.
But we encourage you to wear like a Christmas sweater or a funny outfit, dress festive for the season. And our sponsors are going to be here. And we're also going to have like a cookie, like a cookie trade.
Yeah, absolutely.
So make your own cookies, bring them in. We'll have a good time.
Absolutely. So definitely come and check us out December 20th. It's going to be a party.
We'll see you next week. Actually, we're off following, but we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're off for the holiday. We're taking some time to enjoy with our families, and we're excited to come on back and see. I feel like it will be that meme where like he comes in with the pizza and then the whole room is on fire. And we're going to come back to Minnesota and be reporting live from the Dabbler Depot studio and be talking about, well, here's the shit show this week.
Absolutely.
So thanks for following along. Find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of that jazz. And make sure to follow along with us. Subscribe on YouTube to get updated whenever we drop new episodes, new clips, emergency episodes, recordings of the OCM.
Share it with a friend.
Yeah. Bring it to your Thanksgiving dinner when your family asks, what have you been watching recently? I've been watching the Northern Lights podcast. Have a great holiday break, everyone. We'll see you all back here in 2 weeks. See you later, y'all.
Peace.
Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by Steve Eigenman and Jordan With. Production assistance from Marcus Harkis, Shayna Payton, and John Barty. Video and audio recording at the Dabbler Depot studio by Jordan With. The information provided in this podcast does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking advice from their own legal counsel. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly.